Chapter 268, Death of Dragonians 2. Chapter 268, Death of Dragonians 2. The villa got livelier with more people in it, and Xiaoran was still undergoing the baptism by the Dragon Ball. He would at least be a level 6 martial artist after being baptized by the energy of the Dragon Ball combined with the heavenly flame, tranquil blue flame. For a teenager of 15 years old to be a level 6 martial artist, the talent could easily be considered demon-like. Even the saints and saintess from the sacred sect or sacred clans might not have such capability at this age. Sui Huang dragged Guan Shuqing aside to explain to her about cultivation and refining elixir pills. Mo Yuan respectfully walked to Mo Qinglong and reported an incident. We couldn't get in contact with them. They might have encountered a mishap? Mo Qinglong frowned upon hearing Mo Yuan. He looked at Wang Xian, who was talking to Xiaoyu, before replying, "Investigate this matter thoroughly. If they encountered mishaps, find the culprit." A tint of brutality flickered across Mo Qinglong's eyes as he spoke. At noon the whole group had lunch together. Sui Huang unabashedly sat down together with them. He even requested that Wang Xian provide him with a room in the villa so he could stay for a long while. Naturally, he was mercilessly rejected by Wang Xian. Instead, Wang Xian allowed him to stay with Mo Qinglong and the rest in the neighboring villa. There's no way he would let an old guy live in his villa and disrupt their lives. In the afternoon, the group went to the top of the villa to take a break. Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan walked to Wang Xian and reported solemnly, "Young master, something bad has happened to two of our Dragonians." Huh? Wang Xian, who was lying under the umbrella and looking at Guan Shuqing and Xiaoyu on the yacht a short distance away, was taken aback and sat up. What happened? His eyebrows knitted a little as he looked at the duo and asked. "Young master, although the Dragonians split off to roam the underworld, we have been maintaining communication. The norm would be to communicate once every 3 days, said Mo Yuan. He looked at Wang Xian before continuing. Yesterday we weren't able to contact two brothers of ours. The Dragonians who are in charge investigated the matter and confirmed that they were met with an accident. 2 Dragonians were met with an accident. Wang Xian was a little gloomy and solemnness gleamed in his eyes. The 50 Dragonians were his most loyal subordinates. They had stayed with him since his rise. And now 2 of them had died. Although asking them to roam the underworld was risky to a certain extent in the first place, Wang Xian was still furious to learn about their deaths. Who killed them? Asked Wang Xian glumly. We don't know. We have not found out who the culprit was, but what we know is that they died during a mission. Mo Yuan shook his head and continued, we have found the mission. It was a protection mission and the rewards were great. Mo Qinglong handed Wang Xian a mobile phone. Wang Xian took the phone and looked at the mission. It looked just like any ordinary protection mission. The protection period was just 2 months, but the reward was $200 million. The reward was really handsome, but the requirement for the strength of bodyguards was really high too. It requested level 9 or stronger martial artists, and there would be no reward if the mission failed. A protection mission where a level 9 martial artist would die in mission? Furthermore, with the capabilities of the Dragonians, they wouldn't have to fear half-step to Inborn realm experts. Wang Xian frowned as he read through the details of the mission. Considering the strength of Mo Ersan and Mo Sanyi, there's no way they could have been killed unless there were 5 to 6 half-step to Inborn realm experts attacking them together, or an Inborn expert involved, Mo Qinglong continued. According to the information we have gathered, there are 2 more level 9 experts who accepted the mission. All of them died. My guess is that an Inborn expert is involved. Do we have nothing on the enemy? Asked Wang Xian with a frown. We do not know yet. Perhaps the issuer of the mission and the one being protected might know something. We are currently investigating, replied Mo Qinglong. Investigate it thoroughly. We must definitely find the culprit and take revenge for our brothers, Wang Xian ordered. He didn't care who the enemy was or why they killed the 2 Dragonians. This feud must be avenged. Yes, young master. Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan nodded their heads and left immediately to investigate the matter. Wang Xian looked at the mission on the mobile phone again. The issuer of the mission wasn't hiding at all. His name was Tang Jiuqiao, the richest man of Gui province with assets of approximately $70 billion. He was a hugely successful businessman. However, this mission wasn't protecting himself but his daughter. Wang Xian sank into deep thought while reading about the mission. He noticed that Tang Jiuqiao had issued a new mission yesterday. He was hiring half-step to Inborn experts and the rewards were $500 million. $500 million in rewards for 2 months was an exceptionally attractive mission. Wang Xian had never had $500 million. This amount might even tempt some Inborn experts. Master. At this moment, Xiao Ran and his sister came and respectfully greeted Wang Xian. It's done? Wang Xian observed Xiao Ran's body attentively from head to toe as he revealed a satisfied look. Level 6 martial artist. After undergoing the refining by the Dragon Ball, he now had the strength of a level 6 martial artist. Although his body was still lean, his complexion had changed substantially. His pupils had a tint of blue and his body had a drifting disposition. Wang Xian smiled faintly and said, "Have something nutritious for the next few days." "Oh yes," exclaimed Wang Xian as he looked at Sui Huang who was beside him. "Old man, aren't you well versed in refining elixir pills? Take care of my disciple and refine some elixir pills for him. Feel free to use the spiritual grasses and medicine in the small garden. Make some for Shuqing too. Don't attempt to keep some for yourself." Sui Huang, who happened to be in the small garden observing the various spiritual grasses and medicines, was taken aback. The edge of his mouth twitched a little subconsciously. "These spiritual medicines aren't to my liking," replied Sui Huang. The moment Sui Huang completed his previous sentence he asked, "Brother, I'd like to ask you something. The attributes of these spiritual medicines are totally different. How did you manage to plant them together while ensuring they survive?" Sui Huang was an alchemist and he knew a lot about spiritual medicines. The Sui family also had a garden with spiritual medicines and grasses. There were even level 6 spiritual medicines in his garden. However, the breeding of spiritual medicine was extremely troublesome with extremely stringent requirements for the environment. However, spiritual medicine with fire attributes could be planted with spiritual medicine with water attributes in this place. That was darned amazing to him. "I don't know. They just survived after I planted them there," answered Wang Xian emotionlessly before lying back on the chair. Spiritual medicine indeed had stringent requirements for its environment. However, Wang Xian just needed to inject them with Azure Dragon energy regularly for them to survive. Moreover, their growth would also be quicker with the nourishment of the Azure Dragon energy. If you have nothing to do, just rest or cultivate. As for the matter regarding cultivation, follow your master's girl. Also, listen to the teachings of this capable old man. He's someone with decades of experience, Wang Xian said to Xiao Ran. Xiao Ran looked at his own master and the old man at the side before replying, "Yes, master." "Damn it." Sui Huang's face turned gloomy. "You didn't answer my question when I asked you about breeding spiritual medicines. Yet, you are pushing your responsibilities of teaching your disciple to me?" Chapter 269 Vengeance. Chapter 269, Vengeance. Wang Xian did not know how to teach at all. He did not have the capability and he had a different cultivation system. Hence, he could not teach even if he wanted to. Since a formidable expert was here, Wang Xian simply got Xiao Ran to follow Guan Shuqing's lessons. He believed it would be better than teaching Xiao Ran himself. After a relaxing afternoon, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan rushed back in the evening. "How did it go?" Wang Xian asked as soon as he saw them enter. "Young master, it's a little tricky." Mo Qinglong frowned slightly. "According to the updates we've gotten, the richest man of Gui province, Tang Jiuqiao's daughter seems to be a disciple from one of the sacred sects, Heavenly Sound sect. They are now selecting their saint and saintess. As the saint and saintess, they have to experience the outside world and accumulate enough strength and experiences before they can become a saint and saintess. While Tang Jiuqiao's daughter was roaming around, someone attempted to assassinate her. It may have been sent by her rivals from the same sect or Tang Jiuqiao's. After all, the more power his daughter gained, the lesser obstacles he had in his business. So many parties are involved in this. Wang Xian frowned as it would be more complicated if Sacred Sect was involved. Heavenly Sound Sect, unlike the newly promoted Flame Palace, had so many experts that even Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan had to be cautious. The assassins may not be from the Sacred Sect. They may be from some assassination organizations, Mo Qinglong added as he knit his eyebrows slightly. If we want to take our revenge, we need to obtain some news from the daughter of Tang Jiuqiao. Otherwise it will be difficult to know who our enemies are. Radiance flickered in Wang Xian's eyes. "We must avenge them. Young master, there's a way now. Mo Yuan and I accepted Tang Jiuqiao's mission. We'll get close to his daughter for more information," said Mo Qinglong. "I'll go with you guys." Wang Xian hesitated slightly before he made the decision. Get the rest of the Dragonians to be careful. No more accidents. Yes, young master. I'll accept the mission tonight. Tomorrow we'll rush to Gui province. Mo Qinglong nodded. Great. Wang Xian nodded too. We'll set off tomorrow. Yes. Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan left while Wang Xian had his thoughts. At night, Wang Xian gave a heads up to Xiao Yu and Guan Shuqing that he would be busy for the next few days. He left Xiao Ran in Sui Huang's hands. Hence, Sui Huang was indignant. Damn you for taking me as your babysitter. But the thought of having a formidable talent as his disciple stopped him from complaining after his mumblings. The next morning Wang Xian, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan took a flight to Gui province. Sun Lingxiu, along with Miracle Dr. Bloodman, had officially started their business in Divine Dragon Medical Hall. Gui province was about 1,000 kilometers away from Rivertown. It was a rather far and less economically developed province. There were more mountain ranges within the Gui province. It was important to have mountains in terms of geographical location. Tang Jiuqiao was the richest man in Gui province. The provincial capital of Gui province was a not-so-bustling second-tier city, Wu Mountain City. Even though the city was not bustling, it was beautiful for a provincial capital. Young master, according to the mission's instruction, we need to go to Tang Jiuqiao's villa for a test, said Mo Qinglong to Wang Xian. Do we still have to get tested? Wang Xian was unsure as this was his first time accepting a mission. Yes, young master. They wanted to test if we're capable of the mission. After the test, there's another round of selection too. Mo Qinglong nodded. A total $500 million commission for 4 selected candidates each. That's a total of $2 billion. Such a huge sum of money could tempt some of the first-class forces. Perhaps some of the Inborn experts will be here too. $500 million commission was not a small amount to level 9 or Inborn experts. Hence, it was worth it for some of the disciples from powerful forces to take up this assignment. Wang Xian nodded, and the trio took a cab to the Wu Mountains Villa district within the city. Wu Mountain City was named after the mountains. Dozens of huge mountain ranges were surrounded by luxurious villa zones. Tang Jiuqiao lived in one of the biggest villa zones in the region, surrounded by lush trees and beautiful scenery. The villa occupied half of the mountain top, and it could be considered a manor house. The trio arrived at the villa entrance and identified themselves. 7 to 8 bodyguards dressed in black were inspecting everyone at the entrance. Their waists seemed to be bulging with things. Guns were still a threat to average martial artists. Even inborn experts could not block out intensive artillery bombardment. Only those that were known as the immortals of the land, Dan Realm experts, could ignore those weapons. But if it were a nuclear bomb, even Dan Realm experts would be blasted to death. Wang Xian had no idea if there were any other special weapons to attack individual experts. The security guards grew in numbers as they entered the villa. It was a huge villa that was 7 to 8 times larger than the one Wang Xian had near the sea. Only the richest man in the province could own this. Wang Xian sized the place up with a tint of shock on his face. This portrayed a true blue rich man. Please come with me. The bodyguard in black led the way in front and came to the front of the villa. There was a huge pool and an open space in front of it. At this time there were 20 to 30 people at the open space. Please wait over here. There are more people to come. The bodyguard in black told them before he left. All of them are half-step to inborn experts. Mo Qinglong swept his gaze around and spoke in a deep voice. Even half-step to inborn experts could not be free of this money temptation. Wang Xian smiled and waited quietly at one corner. A lot of people came. Just then another 4 men entered. As soon as they looked at the people around them, they had a taunting smile on their faces. Don't waste your time over here. We are clinching the mission. You guys can go back. Out of the 4, one of the middle-aged men swept his gaze around and spoke with a beaming face. Each one of them was holding a blade in his hands, dressed like a minority race as they exuded harsh and furious auras. Her? The cocky voice drew the immediate annoyance of many people around. Everyone was a half-step to inborn expert. What was there to be afraid of? The 4 heavenly blades. An old man spun his head around with impatience. But when he saw the 4 of them, he was slightly stunned, with trepidation in his eyes. What? The 4 heavenly blades. They're the 4 heavenly blades. Never did I expect their arrival. Aren't they from the far Beifeng province? The 4 heavenly blades, what a familiar name. All of them looked at the incoming 4 people with solemn expressions. Chapter 270, Who else? Chapter 270, Who else? The 4 heavenly blades are 4 well-known half-step to Inborn experts from Beifeng province. They once killed an Inborn expert together. What? They are that strong? The 4 of them can kill an Inborn expert? Under normal circumstances, it would be hard for 10 half-step to Inborn experts to kill even a single Inborn expert. What horrifying strength! Those half-step to Inborn experts in the crowd pulled a long face. In the underworld there was a common saying. Your existence was similar to an ant until you entered the realm of the Inborn. Although half-step to Inborn experts were strong, they were nothing compared to Inborn experts. However, these 4 men had once killed an Inborn expert. This was incomparably terrifying. When these 4 men use their heavenly blade techniques together, the strength is incredible. They are widely known and even first-class forces wouldn't trifle with them recklessly, the crowd whispered. Their expressions changed when they saw them carrying a curved blade each and walking towards them. There are quite a number of experts here, remarked Wuxia with a smile. Any one of these people could be considered an expert in today's world. Aren't you guys leaving yet? In that case, you guys better be careful when facing us in a while. The 4 heavenly blades looked across the crowd and remarked coldly. At that moment, everyone felt that the pressure on them had increased. They frowned and looked bitterly at the 4 men. The sudden appearance of these 4 experts had lowered their chances of getting this mission substantially. Is everyone here? A clearly fatigued voice sounded. At this moment, 3 people walked out from the villa. One of them was a middle-aged man. He was approximately 50 years old and slightly plump. An old man and a gorgeous lady followed closely behind him. The old man had scars all over his face and looked intimidating. As for that beautiful lady, she wore a long white dress and was carrying a green zither behind her. Her long hair was tied up in the same manner as those heroines in dramas about the past. Her temperament resembled that of an immortal. She seemed out of the world and was very attractive. This kind of beauty was rare in modern times. Wuxia looked at the beautiful lady and found her to be familiar. Tang Yinxuan. When he was in the hostel, Wang Dahai often talked about her. In fact, this rascal even went to another city just to have a look at her. Tang Yinxuan was a singer and a musician who specialized in zither. She had quickly become known by many since last year. Although her fame had not spread nationwide, many had a strong impression of her. Tang Yinxuan had never taken up endorsements or attended any variety shows. She gained popularity after working with a piano master. Subsequently, she released an album and the songs on it became widely popular. Her popularity was on par with second-tier celebrities and she had held several concerts. I heard from Wang Dahai that when he attended Tang Yinxuan's concert, he was so moved that he teared up after hearing her voice and her playing of the zither. It was as though she could sing into his heart. If she could make Wang Dahai, who is nearly tone-deaf, cry after listening to her music, there are likely other factors on top of her zither skills. Heavenly Sound sect used musical instruments as their weapons. By playing and using the attributes of metal and water energy, they could influence their opponents and kill them. According to records, when disciples of Heavenly Sound sect played the war instruments on the battlefield, it had the incredible ability to lift the spirits of the soldiers, making them fearless and causing them to forget about fatigue. Wuxia looked at the beautiful lady and thought to himself, Mr. Tang, those who should be here are already here. Those who aren't here are unlikely to be coming. An old man said to Tang Jiuqiao. That's right. Those who should be here are already here. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Tang Jiuqiao said. He took a quick glance through the crowd in front of him. There were nearly 30 people and every one of them had a strong disposition. Everyone, I believe you all know clearly that I have issued a mission in the underworld to look for 4 bodyguards for my daughter. The period shall be for 2 months. After 2 months, I will reward each of you with $500 million. Now, I need to select 4 people from you guys. The selection process will be simple. The strongest 4 will be chosen. Does anyone have any objections? No. The crowd of half-step to Inborn experts nodded their heads. Some of them were gloomy after catching sight of the 4 heavenly blades. Those who believe they are stronger, please step to your right. Anyone can challenge them, but please don't take anything personally. The scarred old man who was beside Tang Jiuqiao remarked at this moment. He looked across the crowd and started emitting an aura. Inborn expert. The crowd was astonished. They looked at the old man in awe and nodded. That's a given. In the underworld, the strong rule. Haha, that's right. In the underworld, the strong rule. After a peal of loud laughter, 4 men walked towards the right. Waving their arms, they held the blades in their hands and their eyes gleamed with arrogance. We are the 4 heavenly blades and we will be taking these 4 slots, the middle-aged man in the middle of the group announced. 4 heavenly blades. The crowd looked at the 4 men who walked out straightway and their expressions were gloomy. Some of their eyes were flickering. 4 heavenly blades. Tang Jiuqiao and the old man beside him looked over. They were surprised but gradually revealed smiles. The beautiful lady who was carrying the zither looked at the 4 heavenly blades and she nodded her head slightly in approval. Clearly they had heard of the 4 heavenly blades. They were the pinnacle among half-step to Inborn experts. This mission is mainly for protection and isn't for the 4 of you to fight together. What's more important is your individual strength. I'd like to challenge. An old man stepped forward and had his eyes fixed on the 4 heavenly blades. That's right. A protection mission wouldn't possibly allow the 4 of you to fight together. Hence, individual strength is the best gauge. A middle-aged man seconded. The 4 heavenly blades were strong together, but once they were separated, the rest weren't necessarily afraid of them. Haha, fine. Even if it is just one of us, you are no match for us. Old man, I'll fight you. One of the 4 heavenly blades said. A middle-aged man stepped forward and showed his curved blade. The next moment he charged and attacked the old man. Ha! The old man roared. He stretched his arms and he had a pair of long metal gloves over them. Mountain-suppressing palm strike. The old man shifted his arm and met the attack from the middle-aged man with his palm. The battle between half-step to Inborn experts was not only powerful but also highly destructive. If those around them weren't half-step to Inborn experts, they would likely have backed off. Haha, succession heavenly blades. The middle-aged man was ecstatic. Holding the blade with 2 hands, his body turned like a spinning top. The slashes of the blade were incomparably fast and the attacks were relentless. Bam bam bam. In a span of just a second, the curved blade had collided with the palm of the old man over 100 times. What? The old man was flushed and shocked. His opponent's attacks were relentless, pushing him back constantly. Bam. Scram! The middle-aged man shouted loudly as he came down hard with his last strike. The old man was knocked back directly. Splash. The old man fell into the pond, sending up a huge splash of water. What fast swordsmanship! How swift and horrifying! The attacks were relentless. If the 4 of them combined forces, wouldn't they be just like a meat grinder? Such horrifying swordsmanship combined with agile movements. It's no surprise that they managed to kill an Inborn expert. That's simply too strong. The half-step to Inborn experts in the crowd looked at the 4 heavenly blades in awe. At that moment, the atmosphere seemed to have been frozen. No one dared to step forward. With the previous display of strength that seemed invincible amongst the half-step to Inborn experts, no one seemed daring enough to launch a challenge. Ha, who else? The 4 heavenly blades looked at the crowd and lifted their heads proudly. The 4 released their aura at the same time and shrouded everyone in it. The combined pressure imposed by the 4 men was shockingly on par with an Inborn expert. Once again they had managed to impress the crowd as a gloomy atmosphere shrouded the crowd. Don't forget about the 3 of us. We will be taking 3 slots then. An emotionless voice broke the silence of the room. Chapter 271. Everyone here is trash. Chapter 271. Everyone here is trash. We'll be taking 3 slots then. An emotionless voice resounded through the open space. Wang Xian, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan were striding to the right with beaming faces. Her? The 3 of them? The voice cut the silence in the courtyard of the villa. All the half-step to Inborn experts were slightly taken aback as they looked over doubtfully. 3 slots for you? The 4 heavenly blades turned to the trio with arrogance on their faces. They revealed a hint of sarcasm. You don't take the slots. You fight for them with your own strength. There's a lad among them. If you want 3 slots, you should get on your knees and beg us for it. The 4 of them mocked the trio, especially when they saw Wang Xian. How dare a lad ask them for a slot? He beg you guys? You better scram. Mo Yuan cast his icy-cold gaze at the 4 heavenly blades. With a swift movement he attacked them directly. He did not exhibit his imposing demeanor as an inborn expert. Nor did he fully display the strength of an inborn expert. Seeking your own death. Upon seeing Mo Yuan's assault, one of the middle-aged men of the Heavenly Blade's eyes were cold. He picked up his machete, slashing away. Mo Yuan had no expression. He reached out his hand slowly with his palms opened with glimmering dragon scales. Ooh! With creepy body movements and serial wielding of blades, the middle-aged man of Heavenly Blade struck ferociously again. An air-rending sound was heard. The surrounding spectators wore grave expressions as they witnessed the middle-aged Heavenly Blade man's assault. One after another swift and non-stop slashes. No one could react in time. That middle-aged man is blocking with his palms. What? Isn't that a suicide move? His palm could be hacked in a single move. The people were astonished by Mo Yuan as he received the blades with his bare palm. Receiving the Heavenly Blade with a bare palm? That was as good as suicide. Bam bam bam. However, what amazed everyone was the sound of a metal collision that kept coming through. Mo Yuan's palms continued to slam against the machete, and his speed was even faster than it. But a weapon was, after all, a weapon. The four Heavenly Blades had not reached the stage where they could wield their weapons just like parts of their bodies. Wielding weapons was greatly different from using the limbs. Bam bam bam. At this time Mo Yuan was so fast that the machete could not keep up with it. He struck his palms on the body of middle-aged Heavenly Blade man. The forceful impact caused him to spit out mouthfuls of blood. Puke. He had a drastic change in his expression as he staggered back with eyes full of fear. Three of you can strike together. Mo Yuan was expressionless. He did not feel anything about defeating the middle-aged Heavenly Blade man. After all, he was an inborn expert and he was concealing his cultivation level. Hence, there was nothing to brag about. Seeking your own death. The remaining three middle-aged Heavenly Blades saw Mo Yuan charging at him, and they were infuriated at once. None of them hesitated. They picked up the machetes uniformly and slashed at Mo Yuan. Let's stay harmonious. An old inborn expert standing beside Tang reminded them when he saw three of them striking together. He's too cocky. How dare he challenge the other three Heavenly Blades? That middle-aged man has a formidable physical body that can actually block the offense of the Heavenly Blades. The combined force of the three of them was on a totally different level as compared to a solo attack. Gosh, look. The frequency of their strikes matches each other perfectly. That is to say, each one of them will attack 3 to 4 times at the middle-aged man in a second. Like a crescent moon, their machetes were smeared with cold radiance. So what if I did? Mo Yuan's expression remained unmoved as he quickly raised his arm to block the machetes. Bam bam bam. 3 machetes slashed Mo Yuan's arm, and the imposing force field caused rings of ripples in the pool next to them. What? How is this possible? Everyone around them drew a cold breath as soon as they witnessed it. Even the 3 Heavenly Blades were stunned, with a hint of horror in their pupils. That physique is formidable. It's absolutely invincible. That's just scary. With such a physical body, I don't think he would get hurt from bombings either. Mo Yuan looked at the 3 middle-aged men impassively. He swung both his arms and assaulted 2 of them. Bam. The 2 of them were unable to react in time. Both got a hit in their chests. They staggered about a dozen steps back with trembling bodies. Do you want to continue? Mo Yuan threw an emotionless gaze at the last middle-aged man and asked nonchalantly. Gulp. That middle-aged man swallowed his saliva with horror in his eyes. Slowly he shook his head. I want all 3 slots. If anyone is unhappy about this, you'll have to defeat me first, said Mo Yuan without a doubt as he swept his overbearing gaze across everyone. Tang Jiuqiao, Tang Yinxuan and the old man beside them were looking doubtful, but they did not refute him. With such an expert around, it did not matter, even the other 2 were weaker. He was domineering and was almost on par with an inborn expert. Is there any half-step to inborn expert that is as strong as him? He must be practicing some unique cultivation techniques. Even without unblocking his conception vessel and governing vessel, his physical body is as good as an inborn expert. Everyone gulped. He was so strong that he could beat the 4 Heavenly Blades easily, even when 3 of them combined their power. He was really invincible among half-step to inborn experts. Invincible among half-step inborn experts. Invincible. He's invincible. Everyone was aghast at the prowess exhibited by Mo Yuan, and none of them had the desire to battle. Dominating. Not bad. You're impressive and almost invincible in the world. Suddenly, everyone heard a praising voice. But 3 is too much. You can take 1 at most. An old man spoke casually from a corner of a crowd. Beside him stood 2 middle-aged men. With his chin lifted up, the middle-aged man looked prideful. They looked at everyone. We also want 3 slots. They swept their gazes across Wang Xian and the rest and eventually halted, looking everyone. Honestly, everyone here is trash. As he spoke, the old man beside him was serene-looking. Chapter 272, It's you who are not worthy. Chapter 272, It's you who are not worthy. Everyone here is trash. When this sentence was said, those who were around were stunned and outraged. Arrogance. You are indeed arrogant. Who do you think you are? Hey pals, don't be too arrogant. You will regret it. We are trash? Who do you think you are? You are talking big without even showing your strength? How arrogant are you? The crowd looked at the 3 of them and criticized coldly. Hehe. When the old man saw the crowd staring at him angrily, he gave a faint smile. Although what my disciple has said is a little crude, you guys are indeed trash in my eyes, said the old man as he turned his attention to Mo Yuan and eventually Tang Jiuqiao. Presumptuous. How presumptuous. Arrogant and conceited. Old man, since you are so arrogant, show us if you have the capital to back your words. The old man's words had once again enraged the crowd as the crowd stared harshly at the trio. Shut your mouth. The old man shouted and changed the aura around him suddenly. Boom. The terrifying aura of an Inborn expert erupted and swept towards the crowd of half-step to Inborn experts with reserves. What? Inborn expert. He is an Inborn expert. Inborn expert. It's no surprise that he was so arrogant and disregarded everyone. I hadn't expected this mission to attract an Inborn expert. The crowd was shaken. They looked at the old man in awe and exclaimed in fear. Once the Inborn expert had stepped forward, he dominated the area. The old man looked at everyone proudly and asked, Does anyone have any opinion if I take 3 slots? His aura was domineering and weighing down on the crowd. Would anyone still like to object? The middle-aged man beside the old man smirked and said, Since an Inborn expert is here, I guess you guys should be on your way back now. We will be taking 3 spots. As for the last spot, you guys can fight it out. The arrogant voice sounded again, but the crowd lowered their heads bitterly and didn't say a word. Once the Inborn expert had appeared, they had already lost the contest. I believe the last spot should go to this person. He's pretty strong and worthy to be with us for the mission, commented the other middle-aged man with a faint smile. Hehe. Mo Yuan broke into laughter and turned to look at Wang Xian. Wang Xian replied with a nod. They had wanted to keep a low profile initially. However, there were always some who wouldn't let this happen. If that was the case. However, you guys aren't worthy to do the mission with us. Mo Yuan looked at the middle-aged man and replied. Upon hearing Mo Yuan, the old man and the 2 middle-aged men were stunned and glowered at Mo Yuan. The crowd also turned and looked at Mo Yuan with disbelief. To speak to an Inborn expert in such a manner, that's too cocky. I guess you are courting death, the old man remarked calmly as he looked at Mo Yuan and stretched out his arms. Shifting his body, he charged towards Mo Yuan like a bolt of lightning. It's over. That middle-aged man has offended an Inborn expert. He must be too eager to die to offend an Inborn expert. I guess you are the one courting death. Mo Yuan remarked coldly to the astonishment of the crowd. Mo Yuan moved too. His palm turned into a claw as he grabbed forward towards the old man's fist. Die. The old man shouted. His eyes were cold and his punch struck much more violently towards Mo Yuan. Bam. As the punch and the claw collided, the situation of Mo Yuan being sent flying back didn't happen. Mo Yuan stood firmly in place, staring emotionlessly at the old man. A black aura started circling his body. It was an aura from the strong, the aura of an expert. What? The old man was astonished, his pupils enlarged as he stared at Mo Yuan in disbelief. Just someone who has just reached the Inborn realm, and yet you dare to be so arrogant. Mo Yuan didn't speak and the voice was from another person. All the crowd could see was a series of blurred images. A figure appeared beside the old man suddenly. Following which, to the astonishment of the crowd, that figure raised his leg and kicked the old man. The old man was surprised. However, the kick was too fast and terrifying. Bam! The old man flew back like a kite with a broken string towards the far end of the area. Boom! The old man smashed into the pond heavily. Psst! Everyone gasped and stared in disbelief at the events that unfolded. Their eyes popped wide open and they were speechless. Wah! The old man stood up in the pond. His body was still trembling as he stared at Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan. Inborn, two Inborn experts. A coarse voice sounded from his throat as he walked out from the pond with a gloomy expression. Indeed. They are really Inborn experts. Horrifying, this is too horrifying. Two Inborn experts vying for this mission. I wouldn't have come if I knew earlier. The crowd was flabbergasted. Even Tang Jiuqiao and the other two were shocked. The scarred old man squinted his eyes and looked at Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan solemnly. A while ago, Mo Qinglong had sent an Inborn expert flying with a single kick. This wasn't something any ordinary Inborn expert could do. Mo Qinglong was probably stronger than the scarred old man. These three experts will do. These three experts shall share the $2 billion reward. Tang Jiuqiao was flabbergasted. Happiness gleamed in his eyes as he announced this quickly. $20 billion to hire two Inborn experts as bodyguards was definitely a great deal. With them around, they could easily match dozens of half-step to Inborn experts. Fine. Mo Qinglong nodded in agreement. Tang Yinxuan, who was carrying the zither behind her, frowned slightly and started to observe the three of them. Everyone, we will be handing this mission to these three experts. Thank you for your time here. Tang Jiuqiao put his hands together and thanked the crowd. Let's go, let's go. A mission that attracted three Inborn experts. So, it seems like I have made a wasted trip. Let's go, there are two Inborn experts. Even if they didn't make up the 4 slots, it wouldn't be unfair for them to split it evenly among themselves. The crowd didn't comment further. They shook their heads slowly and headed out. Some of them looked at the two dumbfounded middle-aged men with ridicule. They thought that their master was incredible. Yet their master was easily defeated by others. Those who were arrogant wouldn't get a good ending. Let's go, the old man said to his two disciples bitterly after giving Mo Qinglong and the group a harsh stare. The two middle-aged men pulled long faces as they followed behind the old men and left. Ah, please come in, experts. Seeing that the crowd had left, Tang Jiuqiao went forward and spoke enthusiastically to Wang Xian and the group. Chapter 273 Tang Yinxian. Chapter 273, Tang Yinxian. Let's sign the contract. Upon entering the magnificent and resplendent villa, Tang Jiuqiao told the trio with a beaming face. Sure. Wang Xian nodded. Mo Yuan examined the contents in the contract and signed after the confirmation. Seniors. Just then, a clear voice that was pleasing to the ears like birds was heard. Such a voice. No doubt she's from Heavenly Sound sect. Wang Xian pondered to himself as he looked at Tang Yinxian, who had the zither on her back. You possess great and outstanding skills. No average Inborn experts could ever be compared with you. Tang Yinxian looked at them indifferently. Her eyelashes were long, and they moved gently when she talked. It was as though her eyes spoke. Her voice was a pleasure to the ears, and no one looked as beautiful as her. She was a ravishing beauty. Sensing their doubts, Tang Yinxian continued to say, Just now I saw your moves. Somehow they seemed familiar. Besides, there is no need for you to take on this task given your strength. As she spoke, her eyes flickered with intelligent radiance. Her? Tang Jiuqiao was stunned for a moment as he fixed his eyes on the trio. Hehe, a babe like you is indeed smart. No doubt you're one of the strong contestants for the Saintess of Heavenly Sound sect. Mo Yuan looked at Tang Yinxian with smiles. They were not surprised when their identities were revealed. When they decided to expose their real prowess, they had already taken that into consideration. Tang Yinxian narrowed her eyes as a tint of surprise flashed in her eyes. Not many people knew about her identity as the disciple of Heavenly Sound sect. Do you know who killed Ji and Mu? Ji and Mu were the fake names Mo Ersan and Mo Sanyi used. Ji and Mu. Tang Yinxian suddenly understood everything. Subsequently, she shook her head with bitterness. Honestly, I don't know who killed them. The selection of Heavenly Sound Sect's saint and saintess is rather cruel. During the 2 years, the one who proves herself to be the strongest or has the highest number of subordinates will become the saintess. During this period, our sect prohibits killings between disciples. But there are always people who cross the line. On top of that, the killer might be the rival of my dad's business. As she spoke, her eyes were filled with helplessness. I still have 2 months before the time is up. My cultivation has reached a bottleneck. Hence, I need to find a way to break through it within these next 2 months. Hence, we hired bodyguards with a handsome reward. I'm sorry about Ji and Mu too. When Tang Yinxuan was talking, Mo Yuan and Mo Qinglong were staring at her. We don't blame you for their deaths. But we want the killer to die. Wang Xian said coldly. Regardless of the reason that caused the death of Mo Ersan and Mo Sanyi, the killer must pay for it with his life. From the way they did their job, they seem to be from an assassin organization. But I can't say for sure. Tang Yinxuan shook her head slowly. Since they failed the last time, they will definitely strike again. We just need to wait for the killer to appear. Mo Qinglong said with a calm face. Tang Yinxuan thought for a moment. I'm not sure now. After all, I have the protection of 2 Inborn experts now, and word has already gotten out. The trio knit their eyebrows. Then we'll wait. Since we took up this mission, we'll protect you for the next 2 months, said Wang Xian after weighing his options. If the killer did not show up after the long wait, he could leave first and let Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan complete the task. Okay, thank you. I'm afraid you guys will be busy with me in the upcoming period. Tang Yinxuan put on a smile. It's okay. We'll ensure your safety. You can rest assured. Mo Qinglong promised her. Thank you. Tang Yinxuan nodded. Haha, we prepared lunch for you guys. Since you've traveled a long way here, we should grab a bite. Tang Jiuqiao stood up and invited the trio with a smile. The 3 of them nodded and came to a ballroom in the villa. After lunch, a maid walked over and handed them a schedule. It was the upcoming itinerary for Tang Yinxuan. She has 4 concerts in the next 2 months. Looks like it will pose troubles to our protection mission. Wang Xian looked at Tang Yinxuan's schedule and shook his head. 4 concerts in 4 different cities. This could make things difficult for them in between. Looks like she is trying to make a breakthrough in her cultivation through the concerts, said Mo Qinglong after some pondering. Heavenly Sound Sect integrated their cultivation with the musical instruments, which was a tedious way of cultivating. Not only did one need to have the strength, but one also needed to master the musical instrument at a certain level. Drawing their own spiritual strength as the media, they could attack with instruments as their weapons. If the cultivation level was not high, it was still manageable. But when one's cultivation level got higher, one could pursue interfering with the mind of anyone through music. A powerful inborn expert from the Heavenly Sound Sect could challenge 2 people of the same level at the same time. This was also the domineering part of Heavenly Sound Sect. We're setting off tomorrow. Let's follow her around in the meantime, and it'd be better if the killers came for her. Wang Xian stood up and headed to the guest room arranged by Tang Jiuqiao. When he was at the door, he heard a faint zither playing from upstairs. The sound was pleasing and the note struck his heart. Somehow he was in a daze. What great music! Wang Xian was slightly shocked as he looked up and narrowed his eyes. The wall in front of him slowly disappeared. Tang Yinxuan was playing the zither in the music room before his eyes. He saw a myriad of musical instruments hanging in the music room. Wang Xian withdrew his gaze and returned to his room. The next afternoon, Wang Xian, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan took a flight with Tang Yinxuan to Lian City. Lian City was a second-tier city with a higher population. It took them 2 hours by plane to reach it, and it was a few hundred kilometers away from River Town. Like other celebrities, Tang Yinxuan wore a pair of sunglasses and a cap. Given her capability, it was hard for foreigners to recognize her. Oh Yinxuan, you're finally here. After walking out of the airport, a young man who was gorgeously dressed scurried fervently over. Let's go Yinxuan. We need to make a trip to the concert hall, and have dinner with the sponsor tonight. The young man spoke in a high-pitched voice as he looked at Wang Xian and the rest. Are these 3 the bodyguards? Take the back seats, okay? Yinxuan, we need to hurry. Our time is tight. The young man said anxiously. Ching, don't be in such a hurry. Tang Yinxuan said without any emotions. Turn down the dinner with the organizers. No way, Missy. You're now in their turf. They specifically asked you to have dinner with them. If you don't go, they might play some tricks just to ruin your concert. Qingqing said hurriedly. Tang Yinxuan frowned before she said, all right then. Chapter 274, No Idea of Death or Danger. 1. Chapter 274, No Idea of Death or Danger? 1. The stage for the concert was in the Lian City Center Stadium. It was a stadium that could accommodate 80,000 people. Wang Xian and Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan followed behind Tang Yinxuan. This made Wang Xian feel a little speechless, as he was just following behind a girl instead of finding the culprit that had murdered the two Dragonians. However, that's all he could do at this moment. The young man, who was a little feminine in his actions, was instructing and telling Tang Yinxuan about some matters. It was clear that this young man was most likely the manager of Tang Yinxuan. Yinxuan, the representatives of the organizers will, at most, request that you play a few songs on the zither and ask you for photos during dinner. At that time, please don't reject them. The dinner will last an hour at the most. After dinner, you can return and have a good rest. The young man repeatedly reminded Tang Yinxuan. Apparently, he knew about the indifferent attitude of this girl. Rest assured. As long as they don't go overboard, everything will be fine, answered Tang Yinxuan plainly. They wouldn't. I'll be with you and we'll keep an eye on them, replied the young man in a hurry. It was already past 7 at night when they walked out of the stadium. The group boarded the car and headed towards a 5-star hotel in Lian City. Jianghu International Hotel was the best hotel in Lian City and was situated in the city center. The owner also had widespread influence. When they reached the entrance of the suite of the hotel, 4 young men in suits stood beside the door emotionlessly. Do you all want to look for another place in the hotel to eat? I'll give you a call later. Tang Yinxuan turned around and said to Wang Xian, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan. Tang Yinxuan knew that there were 2 Inborn experts among them. Even though they were her bodyguards now, she didn't dare to be rude and she asked politely. All right. We will be waiting at the entrance for you after we have our dinner. Mo Qinglong nodded his head. Moving his palm, a ball of black aura fell onto Tang Yinxuan. Don't worry. The moment you trigger your spiritual strength, we will be able to sense it. Mo Qinglong smiled and explained to Tang Yinxuan, who looked a little confused about what had happened. I'll be troubling you guys then. Tang Yinxuan nodded her head. The group of young men at the entrance looked at Wang Xian, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan, feeling puzzled. Tang Yinxuan's attitude towards them was a little strange in their eyes. Isn't she a little too nice to her 3 bodyguards? Tang Yinxuan entered the suite with a young man. Wang Xian took a glance inside and noticed there were 4 to 5 young men with 2 middle-aged men inside the suite. There were ancient martial artists among them, but they weren't very strong nor were they a match for Tang Yinxuan. Let's go. Wang Xian, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan headed towards the public restaurant in the hotel. Don't you guys have eyes? Just as the 3 of them made a turn, they crashed into a group of a dozen people. A young man from the group didn't manage to dodge in time and knocked into Mo Qinglong. As a result, he was knocked back and staggered several steps before recovering. Mo Qinglong turned around impatiently and stared harshly at the young man. What the hell are you staring at me for? Shut up. Bam. When the young man saw Mo Qinglong staring harshly at him, he berated him immediately. However, before he could even complete his words, the voice of a middle-aged man interrupted him. Not only did the middle-aged man shout at him, but he also gave the young man a tight slap on the head. Instantly, the young man was knocked into a light trance, and he felt the world around him spinning. Master. The young man was initially furious, but such emotions were quickly overwhelmed by fear. Miracle Dr. Wang, we are really sorry about this. This rascal failed to recognize you. If he has offended you, please forgive him. We are sorry. Sirs, we are sorry. Please accept my apologies on behalf of Qingmu's sect. We have failed to teach him well. We are sorry. Please forgive us. At this moment, the young man found that his master had completely ignored him. Instead, he was apologizing incessantly to the 3 men in front of him. The fear written over his master's face greatly shocked him. This was their territory. Yet, his master and an elder beside him looked so petrified. Who are they? Be careful next time. Mo Yuan remarked emotionlessly at the group of Qingmu sect disciples before leaving directly. Yes. We will definitely be careful. The group nodded their heads profusely, lowered their bodies and were being as respectful as they could. Wang Xian and the group weren't paying any attention at all as they left without taking a further look at them. Why would we encounter them here? Seeing that Wang Xian and the group had left, the few middle-aged men in the group of disciples from Qingmu's sect wiped the sweat off their foreheads. Their eyes were still filled with horror. Master, they are. Who are they? That young man that knocked into Mo Qinglong previously was baffled as he asked cautiously. Oh, rascal. You better not be that arrogant in the future. When the middle-aged man looked at the young man, he chided furiously. They aren't people we can afford to offend. Keep a low profile from now onwards. Don't be so arrogant. Otherwise, you won't even know when you will be slapped to death by an expert. The middle-aged men chided coldly and stared solemnly at the young man in the black shirt. I never expected them to be in Lian City. Relay this information. All disciples of Qingmu sect must not offend them. Otherwise, I'll debilitate their cultivation and expel them from the Qingmu sect. The middle-aged man in a black shirt instructed seriously. Not long ago, they had to apologize in fear to such a horrifying existence even when they were with their sect leaders. At this moment, their sect leaders weren't around. They had to be even more careful and cautious of them. If any disciples had no idea of death and danger and offended them, Qingmu sect would really be finished. What? The young man was completely dumbfounded. What kind of horrifying existence would warrant the Qingmu sect relaying such orders to the disciples? It didn't come into my mind that Qingmu International Hotel belongs to the Qingmu sect. So their nest is in Lian City, remarked Wang Xian plainly with a faint smile. Qingmu sect could be considered a respectable sect. They are also one of the strongest forces in this province. Mo Qinglong added. However, an existence like this still didn't dare to be arrogant in front of Wang Xian and his group. The three of them arrived at the restaurant and ordered some dishes. After dinner, the three of them headed towards the suite. Wang Xian took a quick glance and noted that they were still eating. Therefore, he simply stood by the side and waited. After waiting for an hour plus, Wang Xian felt extremely bored. Rattle, rattle, rattle. At this moment, sounds of things crashing came from the suite. Fuck. How dare you really start a fight? A furious roar erupted from the suite. The four bodyguards at the entrance exchanged gazes before pushing the door open and entering. You are just a second-tier bitch and yet you dare to act pure and lofty in front of me? Look at your disdainful attitude when drinking with us. You must be tired of living. Let me tell you this. If you can't make us happy tonight, don't even think of leaving Lian City. An arrogant voice sounded once again as the four bodyguards entered the suite and stared harshly at Tang Yinxuan. Wang Xian, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan exchanged glances before looking into the room. Chapter 275, No Idea of Death or Danger. 2. Chapter 275, No Idea of Death or Danger. 2. Tang Yinxuan stood in the room coldly as she fixed her eyes on the people before her with a calm and aloof expression. The young man was anxiously pacing beside her. Gentleman, Director Yuan Yinxuan has always been like this. She doesn't know how to get along with others. Why don't you just forget about what happened today, and I'll make remedies with all of you tomorrow. Tomorrow? Are you thinking of leaving without entertaining us today? If you can't finish this bottle of wine, you can forget about leaving this place. A young man stared at Tang Yinxuan with a pair of cold eyes. He looked at her disdainfully. Trying to act like someone noble? Ah. This fine gentleman over here, I'll drink this up. Yinxuan has a concert tomorrow. She needs to protect her voice. Let me do it. The young man picked up the bottle of red wine from the table and apologized with smiles all over his face. Scram. Who do you think you are? Such a pervert. That young man scowled at Tang Yinxuan's manager coldly. When he heard what the young man said, the manager blushed immediately as he was super embarrassed. Hee hee. Tang Yinxuan looked disdainfully at all of them. So what if I'm not giving you any face? Haha, how conceited you are. Even a first-tier celebrity wouldn't speak to us in such a cocky way. How dare you, a worthless second-tier singer, talk to us in such a manner? Everyone's expression turned cold and they fixed their eyes on him after hearing his remarks. Such a pretty girl. Would it be exciting if I just strip you down and post pictures of you on the internet? A young man exhibited a lustful look as he threatened Tang Yinxuan with a flat voice. Gentlemen, this isn't a joking matter. The young man paled after hearing it. He quickly squeezed out a smile as he waved his hands. He felt difficult. At the same time he looked at Tang Yinxuan with dissatisfaction. Tang Yinxuan was a talented and pretty singer spotted by him 2 years ago. The moment he saw her for the first time, he had a premonition that she would be popular. The fact was that Tang Yinxuan had been a total hit as soon as she debuted, just as he'd thought. However, the subsequent developments left him powerless, as Tang Yinxuan refused to accept any invitations from varieties or other programs. Sometimes he did not know her whereabouts. Hence, he felt helpless and as if he was being treated unfairly. If she had focused on the entertainment industry, she would have become one of the first-tier stars with his resources. Yinxuan, just drink some with them. It won't hurt to drink a little. The young man looked at Tang Yinxuan and persuaded her. Tang Yinxuan looked at her own manager, looking aloof as before. Whatever, if they refuse to hold our concert here, we can go to another city. How can we do that? All that we need for the concert is ready. How can we cancel it? This will be a huge loss. How can we do this? The young man asked anxiously. The loss is theirs since they are the sponsors. Tang Yinxuan did not care as she looked at the people around her impassively. We'll just put an announcement on the bulletin board that someone is giving us trouble then. Anyway, they can refund their tickets. I guess you want us to be rough, don't you? A young man stared at Tang Yinxuan coldly. Whatever. Tang Yinxuan threw cold gazes at them as though they were a bunch of garbage. She picked up her zither and walked out. Bam. At this time, a bottle was hurled and smashed against the wall beside Tang Yinxuan. If you dare to step out, I'll make sure you're famous throughout the country as someone erotic. A young man glared at Tang Yinxuan with a darkened expression. They had invited a second-tier singer for dinner today. Given their identities as the rich gentlemen of Lian City, all they had received throughout was cold treatment. Even a handshake was a brief and aloof one. Hence all of them were pissed off. How dare a second-tier singer put on airs? The people present here were the richest sons in Lian City. What a bother. Witnessing the event from the door, Wang Xian and the rest shook their heads. Babe, let's go, said Wang Xian to Tang Yinxuan immediately. Okay. Tang Yinxuan nodded without looking at those young gentlemen in the room as she walked out. Stop them now. Several bodyguards at the door responded to the low voice by blocking Tang Yinxuan's way while looking at her coldly. If you can't make us happy today, you'll never walk out of this room. We call the shots in Lian City. That young gentleman stared at Tang Yinxuan before he looked to the trio outside. Get rid of the three of them and lock the door. He yelped and raised his glass of red wine while swirling it. I just want to see how cocky an insignificant second-tier star can get. Hee, she's my type. Next to him, another gentleman did the same thing by picking up his wine glass. He sized up Tang Yinxuan from top to bottom with an interesting look. Comparing to those obedient and gentle little sheep, I'm more interested in such a savage horse. Tiske, it must be a sheer pleasure to tame her. Haha, you're right too. We can have a switch of taste today. Those gentlemen raised their wine glasses as they observed and made their comments about Tang Yinxuan without the slightest scruple. The four young bodyguards at the side turned their heads over and looked at Wang Xian and the rest. Are you getting lost over here, or do you want me to throw you out? The young man said to them with a poker face. The four burly bodyguards gave off an inhospitable aura. But Wang Xian felt funny with their looks. The four bodyguards were just ordinary people who were not even martial artists. How dare they peer disdainfully and say such a thing to them? You're tired of living. Mo Yuan extended his arm and slapped them gently. An ordinary slap that did not take 1% of his strength. Bam bam bam. When the four rich gentlemen were teasing Tang Yinxuan in the room with their wine glasses, the four bodyguards were sent flying off. They smashed hard into the dining table in the middle of the room. The wine and dishes on the table spilled all over on the four gentlemen with their red wine. Their elegant yet teasing expressions froze on their faces. All of them sulked as they noticed the four bodyguards who were lying beside the table. Very well, you have pissed us off completely. Today I'll teach you the outcome of provoking us in Lian City. One of the young gentlemen darkened his face as he checked the mess on his clothes. He then looked slowly at the group of people. Hee, interesting. It's been a long time since someone dared to offend us in Lian City. Tired of living? Chapter 276 Crippling Your Own People. Chapter 276 Crippling Your Own People. The four young men stared harshly at Wang Xian, Tang Yinxuan and the group. Their lips slowly curved into smirks as they sneered. Tang Yinxuan reached for her zither as she looked coldly at them. Ancient martial artist. One of the young men looked at Mo Yuan. From the way he had defeated 4 bodyguards in an instant, the young man had determined that he was most likely also a martial artist. He squinted his eyes a little and started observing Wang Xian and Mo Qinglong attentively. I'll play along with you. The young man took out his phone and dialed a number directly. Suite 3302. Get everyone here. Oh, they are martial artists? A young man by the side looked at Mo Yuan and chuckled. Brother Tsong. They dare to hit our guys. You have to teach them a good lesson for me. Rest assured. I'll cripple their limbs and cultivation so they will remember it vividly. The young man remarked plainly and clearly had no respect for Wang Xian and the group. Their vision turned to Tang Yinxuan, and a young man from the group said plainly, how should we handle her then? She will naturally be rotated among us. A young man revealed a desecrating smile before continuing, let me go first. Fuck. Can't we just go at the same time? I don't want to be the last. Haha, you sure have strange taste. However, going together is something I'm fond of too. Ah. The few young men broke into laughter and openly insulted Tang Yinxuan. What's the matter, junior brother Li? Why did you call Xiao Lu and the rest from the hotel? At this moment, a voice interrupted their laughter. Another group of 4 to 5 young men arrived at the entrance of the suite with the management of the hotel. From the group that had just arrived, one of them stepped forward, smiled, and asked one of the young men that was in the room. Oh, senior brother? Why are you here too? That young man was taken aback and surprised by the crowd at the entrance of the suite. We are here with Elder Liang. I heard that you called Xiao Lu and therefore came over to take a look. What's the matter? Who's the ignorant fool that has offended you? The one who had just arrived took out a cigarette as he walked towards the young man in the suite. Just some rascals who have no idea of death or danger. I was just thinking of teaching them a lesson. The young man in the suite answered with a chuckle. Ah, those who offend junior brother Li do deserve to be taught a good lesson. The young man that had just arrived saw the 4 bodyguards on the table in the suite. He smiled faintly and entered the suite. I'd like to see who the brazen one is. As he spoke and entered the suite, he spotted a few familiar figures. He immediately stopped and his expression changed drastically. There they are. They are some bodyguards for a 2nd-tier star. A bunch of death-seeking rascals. The young man who was addressed as junior brother Li smirked and pointed to Wang Xian and the group. He looked to the management team of the hotel that had come with his senior and remarked, cripple their limbs and cultivation before throwing them to the streets. Cough cough cough. Junior brother Li, your jokes aren't funny at all. When the young man heard what his junior brother had said, perspiration broke out on his forehead and his teeth chattered. Call the elder over, he immediately shouted to the people behind him. Yes. Those people that had followed him into the suite also noticed the severity of the problem when they saw the 3 men. Their faces were covered with perspiration as they ran out, feeling panic-stricken. Ah, senior brother, what's the matter? Junior brother Li was taken aback and looked baffled as he stared at his senior brother. The young man didn't respond to him. His gaze swept across Wang Xian and the group, but he didn't dare to look them in the eyes. In fact, he was so flabbergasted that he did not dare to speak a word, or even know what to say. Even his legs were trembling a little. Senior brother Zhao, take a look at that beautiful girl. If she meets your expectations, we are willing to let you have the first round. At this moment, the other few people in the suite also felt that senior brother Zhao was behaving a little strangely. Their comments instantly infuriated senior brother Zhao. He shook his head and stood there, clearly flustered and distracted. Junior brother Li was confused over why his senior brother was acting this way. The atmosphere seemed to have frozen at that moment. Tang Yinxuan was baffled. She saw the horrified looks of the young man before looking to Wang Xian. Wang. Miracle Dr. Wang. Miracle Dr. Wang. An exclamation sounded from outside the suite. From the voice, one could sense a tinge of bitterness. At this moment, all the people in the suite looked in shock at the elder who ran here and was staggering into the suite. His face was as white as a sheet. At this moment, the elder could only feel darkness shrouding his eyes as he couldn't help but curse why he was so unlucky. A disciple of his had bumped into the 3 of them previously. Luckily he was around and stopped his disciple on time. However, another disciple came to report that another disciple of Qingmu sect had offended these three distinguished men soon after. Could it be that fate is screwing our disciples? How the hell did they offend them? Miracle Dr. Wang, may I know which insolent rascal has offended you? The middle-aged man asked loudly the moment he entered the suite. Anger and misery were clearly evident in his tone. Since fate was screwing his disciples, he might as well be the one punishing the disciple. I guess you have to ask the people from Qingmu sect? Wang Xian looked plainly at the crowd from Qingmu sect and smirked. The upper management of Qingmu sect would die before offending him. However, disciples of Qingmu sect offended him one after another. That's really interesting. Miracle Dr. Wang, I don't have to ask. I'll just cripple all those rascals. The elder from Qingmu sect remarked furiously and domineeringly. His gaze turned to the rest in the suite and was cold as ice. Damn rascals. All the young men in the suite were dumbfounded as they witnessed the developments of the incident with disbelief. The next instant, the elder from Qingmu sect struck. He expended almost the entirety of his strength as he moved like a phantom through the suite, attacking the four young men and two middle-aged men. Arg! Shrill cries resounded in the suite and junior brother Li was completely petrified. Elder Lu, I'm Li Tsong. My father is Elder Li. He screamed in horror loudly. In that case, I'll just have to cripple an insolent brat like you for your father. The elder of Qingmu sect growled angrily as he appeared by the side of that young man. After which, he placed his palm against that young man's limbs and elixir field. What? Arg! That young man was horrified. His eyes popped wide open and were filled with disbelief. An elder from Qingmu sect had crippled his limbs and cultivation. This was an elder from his own sect. Why would he do this? He stared with his eyes wide open at the three men standing by the entrance. At this moment, the elder from Qingmu sect, who had struck and crippled the six people, walked towards Wang Xian in fear. Miracle Dr. Wang. I have crippled them. These insolent rascals have all been crippled. Please don't spill your anger onto the Qingmu sect. The elder of Qingmu sect remarked fearfully and wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. The few young men wailing in pain on the ground were gripped by fear by what they had just witnessed. It was no surprise now that the elder of Qingmu sect would cripple their own men. Chapter 277, Breakthrough Assistance. Chapter 277, Breakthrough Assistance. Even their elder was afraid to offend Wang Xian and his group, let alone allowing his own people to provoke them. They were simply digging their own graves. The young men lying on the ground were despondent. Sensing their crippled limbs and the immense pain, they blacked out immediately. Wang Xian waved his hands in dismissal when the elder of Qingmu sect apologized to him profusely. He then turned to Tang Yinxuan. Let's go. Radiance flickered in Tang Yinxuan's eyes as she sized up Wang Xian from head to toe. She quickly followed behind him after some ponderings. Initially, she thought that this youngest man among the group was only the disciple or junior of the other two Inborn experts. However, she recalled something. Along with the attitude from the elder of Qingmu sect, she thought of someone. Miracle Dr. Wang of Rivertown. In that case, he isn't a disciple or junior. He was the pivot point among the three of them. Tang Yinxuan pondered to herself as she fixed her eyes on Wang Xian, who was walking in the middle. He was ranked 8th on Miracle Doctor's chart at the age of 20, and several Inborn experts are at his disposal. Tang Yinxuan was stupefied as she followed behind. The sissy young man sulked as he followed behind her. He looked at the three men who were walking in the front with awe. Initially he thought they were just 3 bodyguards. But now it was completely bullshit. Can the bodyguards be that dominating? Besides, he noticed that he had offended Tang Yinxuan, who seemed to be displeased with him. Ching, you may go back now. At this time, his expression changed because Tang Yinxuan's emotionless voice came from ahead. Yes, Yinxuan. He looked sullen, stopped, and headed in the other direction. Oh. Just then Wang Xian, who was walking in front, suddenly halted. He whirled around and looked at Tang Yinxuan. Her? May I know what's wrong, Miracle Dr. Wang? Asked Tang Yinxuan respectfully after learning Wang Xian's identity. Is there a better way to lure the killer out? Lure the killer? Tang Yinxuan froze for a moment as she pondered. That's right. Lure the killer so that he can strike again. Wang Xian nodded. He realized that he could not keep following Tang Yinxuan around passively. What if the killer didn't show up? Their 2 months' effort would be in vain. Most importantly, they probably would lose the killer if they could not locate him in the meantime. Mo Ersan and Mo Sanyi would have died in vain. They could never have died for nothing. And they could not sit back and wait for the killer. Tang Yinxuan knit her eyebrows slightly as she walked beside Wang Xian. One thing that I'm very sure of is that the killer must have tried to assassinate me just to stop me from being the saintess of Heavenly Sound sect. If the mastermind feels that I'm a huge threat, I might be assassinated again. It's just that I'm unsure if they will take the risk after knowing I have 2 inborn experts beside me. Wang Xian frowned as he fixed his eyes on Tang Yinxuan. So you mean the killer will strike again if you have a higher chance of becoming the saintess? That's right. I'm looking for a breakthrough now. I have the confidence to do so within 2 months. I can probably take the risk to help you guys then, said Tang Yinxuan to Wang Xian. That's too slow. What's your current level now? Asked Wang Xian immediately. Peak of level 9. I'm a half step away from half step to Inborn. Once I reach the half step to Inborn realm, I'll have a 70% chance to become the saintess of Heavenly Sound sect. Tang Yinxuan answered. Really? Wang Xian nodded his head slightly as he looked elsewhere. There's a park by the lake. Let's go there and you can play me a song. Her? Tang Yinxuan was a little doubtful. She hesitated with a nod, but she did not pose any further questions. It was 9 p.m. at that time, and the park was almost empty. Tang Yinxuan sat on a stone bench in a remote corner near the lake. She looked at Wang Xian and placed her zither on her lap. I practice music notes that are water attribution, using the flexibility of water to make a penetration attack. As she spoke, she placed her slender and fair fingers on the zither. Ding dong. As the pleasant sound of the zither played, cool and moist air surged. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly. He observed the surroundings with his piercing eyes. With his vision, he saw faint water elemental energy gathering in the air. Tang Yinxuan was controlling the energy movement. She could make these water elements condense into liquid arrows for assaulting or binding people. On the surface of the lake, the water ripples began to ripple outwards in the opposite direction. Fish surfaced out of the lake water with their mouths open, waiting to be fed. The entire situation formed a picture of a fairy playing zither with fish paying respect to her. You lack something. As he gazed upon Tang Yinxuan's petite figure, he froze for a moment as he hurriedly checked her 8 extraordinary meridians. With a tint of sapphire radiance flickering in Wang Xian's eyes, a blue water current encircled him. The surrounding fish were excited as they leaped out of the water like they were jumping across it. Tang Yinxuan, who was playing her zither, opened her eyes and looked at Wang Xian with disbelief on her face. Marine Divine Dragon was swimming inside Wang Xian's eyes, and the surrounding water elements in the air were bouncy and spirited. Ready to make a breakthrough, said Wang Xian to Tang Yinxuan. Tang Yinxuan was slightly stunned. As she sensed the immense water elements in the air, a sharp radiance flickered in her eyes. She immediately closed her eyes and stopped the music. Wang Xian slowly extended out his arm as he guided the water spiritual energy from his hand to Tang Yinxuan's body. As soon as the water spiritual energy entered her body, her cheeks flushed. She quickly focused, making use of the immense energy to make a breakthrough. As the water energy kept pouring into her body, the energy in the surrounding air slowly disappeared. Wang Xian frowned. He walked to Tang Yinxuan and placed his arm on her back. Marine dragon energy streamed in. Boom. For a moment, intense and high-class energy was injected into Tang Yinxuan's body. She made a breakthrough immediately since she was already at the peak of her level. Vague water flowed and circulated in her body rapidly. Thank you. She opened her eyes with a glimmer of excitement. She tilted her head slightly and thanked Wang Xian with a beaming face. You're welcome. I just want to find the killer as soon as possible. Wang Xian shook his head gently. Me too. Cold radiance flicked in Tang Yinxuan's eyes. After all, the target was her. I'll display all my power at tomorrow's concert. I'm sure they won't be able to sit around after that. Tang Yinxuan regained her aloof look as though nothing could affect her. Her personality was as calm as a millpond. Well, don't worry. You will be alright even if your enemy is an inborn expert. Wang Xian nodded. Thank you once again, Miracle Dr. Wang. Chapter 278, Draw the snake out of the hole. Chapter 278, Draw the snake out of the hole. A shocking scene appeared in the 80,000-person stadium in Lian City. A beautiful girl was on the stage and singing in a soft and alluring voice. Fair and slender fingers were playing on the zither while a heart-touching voice resounded throughout the entire stadium. Several tens of thousands of people stood in the spectator zone silently. They were completely engrossed in the beautiful voice and music. In a corner of the spectator zone, a few people looked in shock at the stage. The music covers 1,000 meters and is soothing the souls of everyone. There's also water spiritual energy gathering in the atmosphere. Half step to Inborn. She has reached the half step to Inborn realm. This is bad. Things are getting complicated. Tang Yinxuan has reached the half step to Inborn realm but Missy hasn't. There's only a month left. Now that Tang Yinxuan has 2 Inborn experts protecting her, we would need at least 500 spiritual stones to hire the Dark Conjurer to assassinate her. That's going to cost us 500 spiritual stones. Let's get back and look through our plans again. Missy must become the saintess no matter what, and we can't tolerate any mistakes. A few people whispered softly among themselves before leaving silently. In a stadium of several tens of thousands of people, no one had noticed their departure. Wang Xian stood backstage and was watching the performance by Tang Yinxuan. A smile was revealed on his face. This is what a real singer should be. Her voice is beautiful and she's at the level of a master in zither. If she was to cry with this voice, Wang Xian couldn't help but think licentiously for a moment, following which he revealed a light smile. Soon the concert ended after more than an hour. Tang Yinxuan returned backstage, smiling radiantly. Any strong martial artist would be able to tell my current cultivation level. If they are going to make a move, they would likely do so in the next few days. Tang Yinxuan smiled and said, "Thank you." Wang Xian nodded his head at her. "Yinxuan, your performance was perfect. It is simply stunning and more successful than your previous concerts. Oh my god. You are like a goddess on the stage that captures the hearts of your crowd. I believe that your fame will greatly increase after this concert." At this moment, the manager of Tang Yinxuan walked in and complimented her. Upon hearing the compliments, Tang Yinxuan didn't smile at all. She looked plainly at her manager and said, "This will be my last concert. I won't be appearing in front of the public anymore." "What? Yinxuan? What are you saying? Please don't joke about this." The young man was flabbergasted upon hearing her and remarked hurriedly, "All right, from now on you aren't my manager." Tang Yinxuan shook her head at him. Becoming a star was just a trial for herself. It was to train her to stand in front of an audience of over 10,000 while honing her zither skills and strength. Now that her goals were reached, she naturally wouldn't continue being a singer. The young man's face sank. However, he knew that Tang Yinxuan would not change a decision she had made. "I'll be staying around Lian City for the next 2 days. I believe they will strike within the next 2 days if they are going to do something." Tang Yinxuan ignored the young man, looking at Wang Xian as she spoke. "All right. In that case we shall stay in Lian City for 2 more days." Wang Xian nodded his head. Lianfeng Lake was a well-known scenic location in Lian City. It was a lake that spanned several dozens of meters and flowed through 10 huge mountains. There was a trekking path on the mountains and one could reach the peak by taking it. There was also a shallow water stream below the peak with beautiful scenery. As it wasn't a holiday, there weren't many people on it. Wang Xian, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan arrived at the location below the peak with Tang Yinxuan. The place was a little deserted and had a few benches along the way. Therefore the group went over to take a seat. Tang Yinxuan placed her zither on a stone table and took a look at Wang Xian who was beside her. "Miracle Dr. Wang, I had not expected you to be a cultivator with water attribute. I believe your strength must be at least at the level of Inborn realm." Tang Yinxuan commented curiously. She was 30 years old this year and her cultivation level had finally reached the half step to Inborn realm. Even when compared to her peers in the sacred sects, she could be considered one of the most outstanding disciples. However, Wang Xian had not only attained the 8th rank on the domestic miracle doctor's chart but had also reached the Inborn realm by the age of 20. Such talents were exceptional and rarely seen. This made her a little curious about him. Wang Xian shook his head, smiled and replied, "Nope, I'm only level 7 currently." "Level 7 martial artist?" Tang Yinxuan was taken aback and wasn't convinced. From what he had demonstrated the previous day, how could he only be level 7? However, she soon recalled that some miracle doctors had extraordinary means. Therefore, she simply nodded her head. If there are really assassins later, Miracle Dr. Wang, you've got to be careful. Tang Yinxuan took a glance at Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan before reminding Wang Xian with a smile. Rest assured. It won't be a problem. The two of them can go against 4 or 5 inborn experts at the same time. Wang Xian smiled and didn't divulge his true strength. Moreover, his current level was indeed still just 7. Time passed gradually and it was noontime soon. The group got some fish from the stream and was roasting them. Tang Yinxuan was chatting with Wang Xian until noon. Pleasing music sounded from below the mountain peak. Wang Xian sat by the side, smiling and watching the beautiful girl in front of him playing the zither. Tang Yinxuan smiled back at him. The sound of water flowing formed a perfect melody with the music from the zither. Hearing the perfect melody, one's mood instantly improved. How fearless is she to be playing her zither leisurely in this place. She must be emboldened by the fact that she has 2 inborn experts as bodyguards. After all, that's quite an impressive lineup. The sun is setting and the mountain peak is dyed blood red from the sun rays. Let's make the red a little brighter with their blood. At this moment, 8 people stood at the peak and edge of the mountain, looking at the 4 miniature figures below them while conversing casually. 2 inborn experts. Leave the 2 inborn experts to the 4 of us. The 4 of you shall go and slay Tang Yinxuan. Once you guys have killed her, we will leave immediately. As for the 3rd person, just kill him if he doesn't know what's good for him, said an old man with a faint smile. On his arm, a centipede that was approximately 20 centimeters long was crawling constantly. 500 spiritual stones. It is worth the time and effort for the 4 of us to strike. An extremely ugly old man lowered his stance slowly. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Weird sounds came from all directions and one could see countless poisonous bugs appearing in the surroundings. There were lots of poisonous bugs as they filled the area. Spiders, scorpions, centipedes, crickets. Surround them and let the hunting begins. An old man let out a heart-wrenching cry and countless snakes charged down the peak at an astonishing speed. The 8 people at the peak of the mountain leaped into the air at the same time, seemingly unconcerned by the fact that they were on the peak more than 100 meters high. Below the peak, Wang Xian, who was watching Tang Yinxuan play the zither, sensed something and immediately looked up. Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan stood up, lifted their heads and squinted their eyes. Tang Yinxuan stopped playing her zither abruptly as her expression turned cold. Is it them? Wang Xian asked Tang Yinxuan. From their clothing it looks like them. However, I'm not entirely sure. Tang Yinxuan looked at the 8 people pouncing towards them and was instantly shocked. This is bad. They have 4 inborn experts. Chapter 279, Killing an Inborn Expert with a Single Palm Strike, 1. Chapter 279, Killing an Inborn Expert with a Single Palm Strike, 1. Looking at the 4 nimble elders, there was a huge change in Tang Yinxuan's facial expression, which began to look awful. Little did I expect 4 inborns from the other party to deal with me. This. Tang Yinxuan uttered in disbelief, for these were 4 inborns. To her, to have 3 inborn experts coming was itself an overstatement, given their status. It was the norm to have 2 inborns followed by a group of 7 to 8 half-step inborns. Just 2 of her top-notch bodyguards handling a couple of the inborn experts would have more than sufficed. Yet they were now faced with 4 inborn experts with another 4 half-step inborns. This had far exceeded her expectations. Who is it? Paying such a huge price just to have me killed? Tang Yinxuan wondered with a tinge of paleness across her face. Given the situation up front, there was no doubt about the impending danger. Miracle Dr. Wang, we'd better make our escape now, Tang Yinxuan shrieked in panic. The assassins sent by the opponent were indeed beyond her expectations. Trying to escape? TSK. Can you now? The elder smirked. With one swift leap, he hopped onto the water's surface in front. He gradually lowered himself upon touching the surface. Venomous snakes slithered out from his sleeves, slowly hissing and slithering their jet-black bodies into the water. Heads raised and tongues sticking out, the snakes peered at Wang Xian and the gang with ice-cold stares. More than a score of snakes had slithered out from the sleeves. It was terrifying to think that an elder had that many snakes hidden on him. Tang Yinxuan targeted by us dark conjurers. Scram now should you 3 want to live. Otherwise we'll kill all of you, the hideous elder told Imo Qinglong and Imo Yuan while standing in front of them. Smack smack smack. While the two elders spoke, a group of 8 surrounded the trio, eyeing them coldly. You're the same group that tried to assassinate us previously, Tang Yinxuan blurted out. Her face had gone a tad paler as she gripped onto her zither. Ah. Your bodyguards back then were pretty good, causing serious injury to 2 of our dark conjurers. But you won't be so lucky today, young lass, said the elder with no intention to hide anything, while standing atop the water's surface. To them, no concealment was necessary, for it already appeared to be mission accomplished this time. Such was the confidence of the experts, which was also owing to the prowess of the dark conjurers. Dark Conjurer, Imo Qingling and Imo Yuan muttered as they swept their gazes across the 4 Inborn experts coldly, their eyes slightly squinted. Dark Conjurers, renowned for half a century, were amongst the apex of assassination groups in the underworld. The group had tried to assassinate experts from the sacred sect in several attempts. They even managed to silence a sacred sect elder once. The same scared sect had once made an order to kill, vowing to annihilate the dark conjurers, which ended up having been in vain, for they had no clue as to the whereabouts of the dark conjurers' hideout. Since then the fame of the dark conjurers had spread far and wide. Only the hidden assassins could be considered on par with them. The audacity to kill my dragon sect disciples. I shall annihilate you dark conjurers, Imo Qinglong hollered as he turned his gaze towards the elder. His eyes were overwhelmed with a murderous look. Dare you to retaliate, the elder challenged. This is interesting, Imo Qinglong rebutted. Kill them all, ordered the elder. With a shift, the few Inborn experts lunged directly towards Imo Qinglong and Imo Yuan. With not a word further, the killings came down swift and decisive as expected of assassins. What's more, these were explicit attempts made by powerful assassins. All of you shall die, roared the duo. With one shrug, an immense demonic aura oozed out of both Imo Qinglong and Imo Yuan, rampaging above their heads like an evil dragon. Their arms were slowly covered by scales, piece by piece. They resembled the arms of a wild beast. Boom. Emboldened in a powerful stance, the duo pounced straight for the 4 Inborn experts with swirling devilish aura. Oh, such a formidable stance, the 4 dark conjurers yelped. Their faces grew heavy at the sight of the duo's stance, slightly taken aback. The 4 of you kill Tang Yinxuan, ordered one of the dark conjurers, who proceeded straight for Imo Qinglong following one swift move. Venomous worms spilled out from under his feet and followed in his attack. Claws of the devil dragon. Imo Qinglong roared. Looking on coldly, Imo Qinglong extended his arms. The devilish aura scampered from above his head and wrapped itself around his arms. A dragon's claw 2 meters long was formed, and it began to attack. Slaughter, the elder ordered. With the twitch of an arm, a bone blade appeared, which he aimed straight at Imo Qinglong. Below him venomous worms leaped in masses. They aimed straight at Imo Qinglong for a bite. However, within 2 meters from Imo Qinglong, all the worms began to twitch and shiver. They sprawled on the ground, not daring to move. As Imo Qinglong swept his claws of the devil dragon across, the look on the dark conjurer's face changed drastically. He retreated meters back. Pinnacle Inborn, he is an expert of the Pinnacle Inborn, one dark conjurer yelled. Joint attack, another shouted, and together the 2 sieged an attack at Imo Qinglong. Meanwhile, another 2 went straight for Imo Yuan. Just the 2 of you? Imo Qinglong said smugly. As he lifted his head slightly, bouts of devilish aura circled and eyed the 2, overwhelmed with an urge to kill. The audacity of them to kill members of the dragon sect. For that they shall be annihilated. How formidable. Tang Yinxuan glanced over at Imo Qinglong in shock. Yet, upon seeing the 4 Inborns as they made their attack on her, a subtle change of expression flicked across her face. She strummed her zither gently. Once the zither was suspended in mid-air, Tang Yinxuan began strumming rapidly. The melody from the zither switched from its usual light-hearted tune to that of one filled with chill and bloodthirst. Like a thunderstorm, it plucked at heartstrings and pricked at the core. Stay right behind me, Miracle Dr. Wang. I'll deal with them. Tang Yinxuan said to Wang Xian with a heavy look. Zoom zoom. Streaks of water began to form above the tune before transforming almost immediately into 4 sharp arrows. They darted straight for the 4 half-step Inborns. After the arrows were formed, Tang Yinxuan strummed again. Voom voom voom. Suddenly, ice needles formed from the water appeared alongside the 4 dark conjurers surging past. Such a powerful melody, no doubt a disciple under the Heavenly Sound sect. A target worthy of so many top assassins from us, the quartet claimed. They were slightly surprised upon seeing the attack but managed to recover quickly with smiles. A greenhorn in the world of the half-step Inborns, regardless of power, shall die, they smirked. Piercing daggers held by the quartet sliced through the ice pricks before coming straight for Tang Yinxuan. Such speed. Tang Yinxuan said and closed her eyes briefly as they narrowed involuntarily. Swish swoosh. Eerily, water from the stream behind her began ascending towards the sky. Oh no, Tang Yinxuan exclaimed. It was at this instant that the black snakes hopped into the water streaks. It forced Tang Yinxuan to open her eyes instantly, where a tinge of embarrassment had flashed across. Ding. With a flick of her finger, a water streak transformed into a sword and cut straight at the snakes behind her. Then came another ambush from the back. Humph, meet your doom, the 4 dark conjurers claimed. In an instant they snuck like ghosts and shot over with their piercing daggers. Chapter 280 Killing an Inborn Expert with a Single Palm Strike 2. Chapter 280 Killing an Inborn Expert with a Single Palm Strike 2. Heavenly Sound Acute Strike. Seeing 4 assassins approaching her, perspiration broke out on Tang Yinxuan's beautiful face. Her fingers moved quickly on the zither and dense water attribute energy shot out like a waterfall. Ding. Shit. Suddenly, Tang Yinxuan was shocked to notice that a string on her zither broke. She slammed both of her hands heavily on the zither and a dense layer of water appeared in front of her. The layer of water that spanned 5 to 6 meters and possessed immense energy swept towards the 4 approaching assassins. Haha, there's a saying in Heavenly Sound sect that goes, one perishes or thrives with his instrument. What an apt saying. When the 4 half-step to Inborn experts saw the string on Tang Yinxuan's zither break, they smiled with bloodthirst. The 4 assassins waved their daggers heavily. Dazzling glow shot out from the daggers and split the layer of water. Bam. Crack crack crack. The 4 daggers landed on the zither, breaking it. Cracking sounds broke out. Let's go. Seeing her broken zither, tears welled up in Tang Yinxuan's eyes. Nonetheless, she turned around rapidly and, to the astonishment of Wang Xian, carried him up and fled in the opposite direction. Wang Xian was shocked to be carried by a beautiful girl. This? Picking up the scent of Tang Yinxuan, Wang Xian was slightly embarrassed. He had wanted to make his move previously. However, he had not expected Tang Yinxuan to carry him away. Do I need a woman to protect me? Wang Xian was speechless. However, he felt a little apologetic when looking at Tang Yinxuan. She chose to carry him away while sacrificing her beloved zither. This made Wang Xian a little touched. Escape? If you can escape from the hands of us, the Dark Conjurers, we wouldn't be known as the Dark Conjurers. An arrogant voice propagated and soon 4 hidden weapons shot towards them. Shit, hidden weapons. Tang Yinxuan was shocked. She immediately stopped in her tracks and dodged the hidden weapons by landing on the water surface. She had Wang Xian carried in one hand as she was worried he would fall into the water. As she turned around, her face turned as white as a sheet as she saw the 4 assassins approaching. Pa 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 pa. The 4 assassins surrounded Tang Yinxuan and stared mercilessly at her. Escape? You've got to ask if we, the Dark Conjurers, agree to it. The 4 assassins said mockingly while staring at her. It's over. Tang Yinxuan's pale face stared intensely at the 4 half-step to Inborn experts from the Dark Conjurers. She turned her head to Wang Xian and remarked with a bitter expression, I'm sorry. I had not expected these assassins to be this strong. Sorry for implicating you in this. Seeing her apologizing to him, Wang Xian shook his head in embarrassment. Luring the culprits out was his request and now they were stuck in such a situation. Wang Xian felt that he had gone overboard by acting weak. It's all right. We will be fine too. Wang Xian smiled plainly at Tang Yinxuan before scanning across the 4 half-step to Inborn experts from the Dark Conjurers. Tang Yinxuan was confused to see Wang Xian smiling. However, Wang Xian's voice sounded at this moment and disrupted her thoughts. Although my strength is that of level 7, killing them is still an easy task for me. As she heard Wang Xian's response, she saw Wang Xian smiling at her. Arg! For cries sounded around her. Tang Yinxuan was astounded as she looked around her immediately. Her eyes popped wide open as she looked on in disbelief. The 4 half-step to Inborn experts were being held by water streams. Horror filled their faces as they desperately tried to break free with all their strength. However, their attempts were futile and their bodies sank below the water's surface. Their eyes were filled with desolation and horror as they slowly sank below the surface. "Sink," said Wuxia lightheartedly. Cough cough. "How is this possible?" The 4 assassins' eyes widened as their bodies sank gradually towards the bottom of the waterbed. "You?" Tang Yinxuan turned her head around immediately and stared at Wuxia in awe. Feeling her arms still wrapped around his body, Tang Yinxuan immediately let go. I wanted to make a move previously but you." Suddenly, Wuxia shrugged his shoulders as he saw the expression on Tang Yinxuan changing and her eyes shimmering. "Why didn't you make a move earlier?" "Tiske." Tang Yinxuan sneered, turned around and dashed for the shore rapidly. A poisonous snake attempted to bite her but was sent flying away with a wave and died horribly. When she reached the shore and saw the zither that had cracked, she took a deep breath, slowly lowering her body and looking desolate. She picked the pieces up one after another. Wuxia smiled bitterly and looked at the battle between Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan and the other 4 assassins. A cold murderous light flashed in his eyes. Mo Qinglong was pinning down 2 Inborn experts. He was just like a devil dragon in human form as he swung his dragon claw around. The 2 experts from the Dark Conjurer battling him looked wretched. On the floor the poisonous bugs weren't moving at all. Some were dead while others were shivering in fear. "Finish that guy quickly and help us out." That ugly old man was trying to defend himself bitterly as he shouted to the 2 experts from the Dark Conjurers fighting with Mo Yuan. Damn it. The other 2 experts from the Dark Conjurers were engaged in a bitter battle too. Although they had the upper hand against Mo Yuan's horrifying physical body didn't allow them to take advantage at all. It would be extremely hard for them to defeat Mo Yuan. How could they be so strong? The 4 experts from the Dark Conjurers thought to themselves bitterly. They were planning to flee the moment Tang Yinxuan was killed. "You shall pay with your lives for killing the people from our dragon sect. We will definitely eradicate the Dark Conjurer." Eradicate. Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan shouted in unison as they launched a fearsome barrage of attacks. "I'll definitely eradicate the Dark Conjurers." Wuxia walked over and locked onto the 4 Inborn experts from the Dark Conjurers. The next moment he struck. "Shit. Where are Ning and the rest?" When the old man that was engaged in an intense battle with Mo Yuan saw Wuxia attacking him, he was shocked. A bad feeling welled up in him. "Just a brat and you're thinking of interfering. Let me kill you first." The old man broke free from his battle with Mo Yuan instantly. Moving like a phantom he attacked Wuxia. Bam. As an assassin his movement techniques and speed were definitely top class. The old man was extremely fast as he attacked Wuxia. However, the speed he was knocked back it was also very fast. It was as though he was hit by a cruising airplane. A black figure was knocked back. Bam. The body of the old man was entrenched into the mountain directly, his eyes still opened wide and filled with disbelief. What? The other 3 old men from the Dark Conjurers were completely dumbfounded as they looked across. They saw that young man brushing off the dust from his hands casually, killing an Inborn expert with a single strike. This? A short distance away Tang Yinxuan, who was picking up the pieces of her broken zither, saw it too. Her eyes opened wide and were filled with astonishment. She wasn't as composed and calm as she used to be at all. This rascal. Chapter 281 Crushed the Dark Conjurer with the Abyss, 1. Chapter 281 Crushed the Dark Conjurer with the Abyss, 1. Finding it hard to believe, Tang Yinxuan gritted her teeth in anger. How could this fellow have not taken a strike, given his incredulous powers? The fight would have ended long ago had he done so. Moreover, as she looked at her zither, she felt more enraged. To the Heavenly Sound sect, the destinies of the zither and its owner are intertwined. To make matters worse, this zither had been gifted to her by her mother. Although this zither was no longer on par with her standards, she could not bear to have it replaced. In the absence of her mother, the zither helped to alleviate some of her longings. But now the zither had been ruined. How is this possible? Just how could this be? The three dark conjurers fighting with Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan shrieked in astonishment. Fixing their gaze at Wang Xian in disbelief, their faces changed drastically. All followers of the dark conjurers shall die, Wang Xian proclaimed. Despite his somber expression, he let out a glimpse of a smile. Since it was an assassination group that had murdered Mo Ersan and Mo Sanyi, they shall be annihilated. Spare one so we can find out about the dark conjurer's hideout, Wang Xian said dully. Trying to locate our base? Dream on. You're never going to find it even at the cost of our lives. The hideous elder snapped with a grimace. His body was showing patches of crimson, to which all surrounding venomous worms were drawn to him. As they flew over, they attached themselves onto his body. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The worms penetrated through his skin and into his body, forming patches of blood pus. The fact that they came in shades and hues made them appear all the more grotesque. We will seek revenge for us dark conjurers. All of you shall perish, including your loved ones, said the nasty-faced elder. Meanwhile, the attire on him started to melt rapidly as it gave off buzzing sounds. A foul smell, with a mix of stale blood and whiffs of venomous liquids, was emitted from his body. Soon enough, a monster-like creature emerged right before their eyes. With a swerve, the monster lashed directly for Mo Yuan. Run! Two dark conjurer experts shouted, a drastic change of expression striking across their faces. With a swift turn, they tried escaping to further grounds. Trying to escape? Can you? Mo Qinglong challenged them as he gave chase. Venomous creature? Mo Yuan quizzed. He looked on coldly as the monster approached, about to attack. As a member of the bloodline of the divine dragon, and one who practiced the devil powers, he showed no fear in the face of venom. How disgusting! Wang Xian yelled. As he looked at the creature, which was oozing with the corpse fluid of venomous worms, he flanked his arm. Streaks of water flowed from the riverbank and gathered over to his side. Seizing the opportunity, Mo Yuan swept his dragon's claw past and smashed the claw into pieces. Following the attack, Mo Yuan shifted his stance and chased after the two dark conjurer experts with lightning speed. Given the capabilities of Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan, it took them little effort to apprehend the duo who were seriously battered. Bam! Appalled, the two elders were flung onto the ground, faces overwhelmed by pain and despair. Raising their heads, they saw Wang Xian and the others approaching, and greeted them with grimaces. Never in their wildest dreams had they expected to fail this mission. Prior to this attempt, it had appeared to them that nothing would go wrong, having dispatched 4 Inborn experts. Nonetheless, they still failed. On the other hand, killing them appeared so effortless, thanks to the existence of this formidable trio. From what they could recall, the only time they'd had to face such formidable experts was more than a decade earlier, during which the sacred sect had sent out orders to exterminate the dark conjurers. The entire sacred sect was deployed, and it was only then that the dark conjurers felt a looming sense of crisis. Yet this trio had given them the same impression this time round. Force it out of them. Make them spill out about the dark conjurer's hideout, Wang Xian told Mo Qinglong as they stood beside one another. Yes, young master, replied Mo Qinglong while nodding. Slowly, he walked over to one of the dark conjurer experts and stared coldly in his face. Trying to make us spill on our hideout? Dream on. The two elders snapped. They glared on, eyes filled with bloodthirst, and as they turned, they were ready to end their own lives. Bang. With quick reflexes, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan reacted swiftly. Kicking at one of the elders' elixir fields, they managed to stop them from attempting suicide. After all, they had been trained assassins. Trying to end your life? How could we let you have it that easy? Mo Qinglong snorted with a dismissive face. Laughed the two dark conjurer elders. Despite looking miserable, their gaze remained prickly cold. Extreme disdain swept past their faces. You won't get any information from us. Not even the sacred sect could manage. What's more, you people amongst all? Asked the two elders. Seems like there has been some serious brainwashing going on for these dark conjurers. Mo Qinglong responded, slightly embarrassed. With a fling of his arm, he emitted a bout of devilish aura. The aura circled the duo's noses, eyes, and ears, before making its way into their bodies and entering their minds. In an instant, the duo went into a daze, appearing as though their minds had gone blank. Out with it. Reveal your hideout, Mo Qinglong questioned flatly. Ah. The two elders laughed goofily. Suddenly this was followed by a loud cry. This made Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan uneasy. Just kill them, Wang Xian replied, jaded. Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan nodded as they looked on awkwardly. Little wonder why they remained in existence despite the sacred sect issuing the order to kill. Each member of the Dark Conjurers has been hypnotized with a mental block. There's simply no way of learning about their base from them, they said in realization. That remains to be seen, Wang Xian interrupted. Looking towards the river flow, he spotted a few of the black venomous snakes and peered at them coldly. Oh, do you have a plan in mind, young master? Mo Qinglong asked, somewhat stunned by the remark. There's a way, Wang Xian answered with a faint smile. He wanted to achieve what the sacred sect could not. This time we'll wipe out the Dark Conjurers. We'll get a hold of the one who gave the order to kill us and get rid of them altogether. Wang Xian proclaimed placidly. As he did so, he stretched his arm out slightly, pointing in the direction of the river flow. Instantaneously the snakes shivered. As they lowered their heads, they swam towards Wang Xian, cowered in fear. Tsk. 3 snakes hissed as they lay beneath his feet, overwhelmed by fright. You happen to know where the Dark Conjurers are hiding? Wang Xian asked the snakes composedly. Meanwhile, a message was being transmitted into their brains. While the snakes were not bright creatures, they still knew a thing or two to say the least. The 3 snakes nodded their heads as if in response. Good. Wang Xian returned with a toned smile. While the Dark Conjurers could induce a mental block on their assassins, they could not do the same on snakes. Never would the Dark Conjurers have expected that as a divine dragon, Wang Xian could command other living creatures, even understanding them in their language. Prowess of the divine dragon rules the entire animal kingdom indeed. Old Mo, summon those Dragonians from the abyss as well. We should challenge those seniors since they too have founded a similar group. Let's see if we can pick up some of their skills. Wang Xian instructed Mo Qinglong as he broke out in a radiant smile. Yes, young master. We'll contact the abyss right away, Mo Qinglong answered while nodding. To think that these 7 founded the abyss without a single henchman. How absurd. He chuckled. Let them be. The abyss doesn't need much manpower anyway so long as they're able to helm control over the world. Wang Xian laughed back. With the abyss we shall crush the Dark Conjurers. Chapter 282 Crushed the Dark Conjurers with the Abyss 2. Chapter 282 Crushed the Dark Conjurers with the Abyss 2. Tang Yinxuan, for the next month, let me arrange a safe place for you. We have some matters to attend to. Walking back from Lianfeng Lake, Wang Xian looked at Tang Yinxuan, who was hugging her broken zither, and spoke to her awkwardly. It's all right. I'll go back to my sect. I will be extremely safe there. Tang Yinxuan took a glance at him and soon turned her head back. I'll tell my father that your mission has been completed. Wang Xian nodded his head and the group found a hotel within the city center. On the second day the 4 of them took a plane to Ning City. This was the sacred ground of the Heavenly Sound sect. Having sent Tang Yinxuan safely into her sect, Wang Xian looked at Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan and asked, have they arrived? They are all waiting at the Dongling mountain range, answered Mo Qinglong as he nodded his head. Dongling mountain range was the largest mountain range in the country and spanned over 1,000 kilometers with a width reaching 200 to 300 kilometers. It was also the largest primitive mountain forest in the country. Within this primitive mountain range, there were various kinds of wild animals and a Dongling river that was several hundreds of kilometers long. Famous mountains and huge streams were known to be the breeding ground for monsters. At the edge of the Dongling mountain range, Wang Xian, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan approached rapidly. There were few people in this area and they were surrounded by pine trees, red spruce trees, white birch trees, poplar trees and many other kinds of plants. Every single tree was huge and over 10 meters tall. Between the trees, there was a small path that led to the mountain ranges. At this moment, barely anyone was using the path. Young master, they are in one of the mountain peaks ahead. Mo Qinglong pointed to the highest mountain peak in front of him. Wang Xian nodded his head. Moving off, he was like a huge rock spreading his wings as he leaped several tens of meters in a single jump. Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan followed closely behind him. Dragon King. At the peak of one of the mountains, 7 figures in black attire stood on 7 different trees. Seeing that Wang Xian had arrived, the 7 of them immediately went on their knees. Not bad. Wang Xian scanned across the 7 people and revealed a smile. Among the 7 people, 3 of them had reached the half-step to Inborn realm while the other 4 were level 9 martial artists. This was a remarkable improvement. Let's go to the nest of the dark conjurers. Wang Xian said to the 7 people. Yes, Dragon King. The 7 people lifted their heads. To Wang Xian's surprise, all of them put on masks. They were masks made of metal with the design of a horrifying and savage devil. At the location of the forehead on the masks, there was the word kill in red. The mask together with their black attire made them look extremely dangerous. That's pretty cool. Wang Xian smiled as he looked at the 7 stunning masks. Dragon King, we have a few more here. A Dragonian took out 3 more masks and passed them to Wang Xian, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan respectively. Haha, just right. 10 of us. Wang Xian laughed as he put on the abyss mask. The mask felt a little cold but was comfortable. It also didn't affect one's breathing and speech. Wang Xian didn't know what material it was made of. Together with the black casual sports attire he was wearing today, it was quite a good match. Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan also received the masks and wore them. In that instant, a faint silent killing aura surrounded the group. Let's go. Moving his arm, a black poisonous snake appeared on Wang Xian's hand. The head of the poisonous snake pointed in a certain direction. The 10 of them moved rapidly as they pivoted off the mountain peaks that were 500 to 600 meters tall. They were just like figures in mythology who could cover several tens of meters with a single leap. What a majestic view. Wang Xian landed on the tip of a tree on the mountain peak as he looked around and was slightly shocked by the scene. Within the primitive mountain ranges, there were wild boars, rabbits, chickens and all kinds of animals running around. As the poisonous snake did not have its intelligence manifested, it couldn't express an exact location. Therefore, the group could only search for the location. Nonetheless, their speed was incredibly fast. When moving at full speed, they could reach 100 kilometers an hour. Splash! After moving through the mountain ranges for 4 hours, a huge waterfall appeared in their sight. Below it was a huge river. This must be the Dongling River. Wang Xian thought to himself before taking a glance at the surroundings. Let's take a break here. Go get some wild animals to eat. Yes, Dragon King. The Dragonians nodded their heads and dispersed to the surroundings to look for food. Wang Xian walked to the edge of the river and looked at the waterfall. Soon, the Dragonians returned with wild chickens, rabbits and some fish. Wang Xian opened his mouth, took out the Dragon Ball and placed it on the floor like a piece of roasting equipment. The wild animals were delicious and more fragrant than typical meals. The aroma of the meat could whet one's appetite. Wang Xian sat on a stone bench while observing the surroundings with a faint smile. Rattle, rattle, rattle. There's water ahead. We finally found a water source. This mountain is really dirty. Wash up and let's have lunch. I wonder if we could find that spiritual treasure. There are people here. At this moment, a group of over a dozen people walked out from the forest. The group was made up of men of different ages. They had uniform-style longswords in their hands and everyone wore identical yellow attire. The group walked out from the forest of the mountain and looked inquisitively at Wang Xian's group. When their eyes fell on the masks on their faces, they were baffled. What a strange group of people. They are most likely martial artists. They whispered softly among themselves and headed towards where the river was. Xiao Yuan, get a few people with you to hunt some wild animals and start a fire here. We will be taking a break. A middle-aged man instructed a few young men. Yes, master. The group of young men nodded their heads before dispersing. Some went into the forest while others went into the river to catch fish. I guess they are here to capture that spiritual animal too. It seems like there will be several sects and families who will be here. The middle-aged man took a glance at where Wang Xian and the group were before whispering to the 2 old men beside him. We certainly must get the spiritual animals. Within this vast mountain range there are really lots of treasures. An old man commented confidently as he observed the surroundings. The middle-aged man beside him smiled and revealed an equally confident look. Wandong, come over. Lend me your sword to start a fire. Beside them, a young man shouted at the other man. Don't use my sword. We can just start a flame by getting a spark from the others. That young man pouted and directed his eyes at Wang Xian and the crowd. All of them are wearing masks and are likely not very sociable. The young man saw Wang Xian's group wearing masks and reminded softly. Haha, we're just getting a spark from them. Moreover, they have to remove the masks at some point to eat. Otherwise, they will have to tear their food into shreds before eating. The young man chuckled and walked towards Wang Xian directly. Chapter 283 Crushed the Dark Conjurer with the Abyss, 3. Chapter 283 Crushed the Dark Conjurer with the Abyss, 3. Gentlemen, could you spare us a fire to start ours? A young man said to Wang Xian and the gang as he approached. But soon enough, he was stunned by the sight of the dragon ball on the ground. Emitting a gentle flame, the dragon ball helped to roast the peasants and hare caught in the wild. Gentlemen, this fire starter of yours, what is it? The young man asked as he expressed his shock. There's no fire to lend. Off you go. A Dragonian replied to the young man apathetically as he raised his head. Donning a face mask from the abyss and speaking indifferently, the Dragonian appeared strikingly aloof. As he saw the Dragonian's icy gaze, the young man turned and stepped away. Just say so if you don't wish to spare. No need to say there's none when it's just right there. The young man pouted. When he returned, he was received by another young man in sarcasm. Aha! Why did you fail? Like I said, one look and you can tell that group of men is difficult to get along with, the latter remarked snidely. Humph, just a few who can't even show their faces. What's so great about them? The young man complained in resentment. Though I have to admit their fire starter looks pretty amazing. It's a bead-colored bright crimson. And the bead emits fiery red flames from the top. The young man continued. A flame bead? This fellow asked with a face full of doubt, slightly taken by surprise. To which the young man replied, yeah, a bead. One which emits streaks of flames from the top. A bead? Came a questioning voice. The conversation between the young men was overheard by several middle-aged elders nearby. Astounded, one of the elders sporting crimson hair began to shift his gaze. He looked over in the direction where Wang Xian and the gang were. When he spotted the dragon ball on the ground, a glow flickered over his eyes as they narrowed. What is it, old Hua? A one-eyed elder asked. He had a look of doubt on his face as if sensing something amiss. That's a flame bead, the red-haired elder exclaimed while turning his head. As he said so, his eyes squinted into a deep gaze. Flame bead, huh? That's a spiritual treasure of the fire element, the one-eyed elder said in response. To think that they're using such a gem to feed a fire. What a waste, the red-haired elder continued. To which all the middle-aged elders sitting around turned their heads and looked over with sparkling eyes. Every spiritual treasure has its strengths. Those of exceptional powers can even help their owner challenge someone to a class-superseding fight. The crowd fixed their gaze on the spiritual treasure which was sustaining the fire with a glow in their eyes. After exchanging glances, the elders said, "Come on," in unison and slowly made their way over. Greetings, I am Leng Wujian from the Guangshan Sword Sect. The red-haired elder introduced himself. While walking over, he eyed Wang Xian and the gang, but his eyes were mainly fixated on the dragon ball. Speak. Mo Yuan answered sparingly. Everyone, it's a waste to be using this flame bead for a fire. I would like to buy this flame bead with 50 spiritual stones. What do you say? The elder offered. Although spiritual treasures such as the flame bead and water bead were not exceptionally rare, an ordinary flame bead would have cost anything between 60 to 70 spiritual stones. 50 spiritual stones, as offered by the elder, was a price much lower than usual rates. No, we're not selling. Leave us alone, Wang Xian rejected outright as he looked over at the five. Are you not? The red-haired elder inquired again, completely unaffected by the response. He briefly skimmed past the people around. Stretching his hands, 10 steel beads appeared in each of his palms, each the size of a thumb, which thereafter went straight for Wang Xian and the gang and began to attack. But each one of the steel beads had not struck them at their vital points, which made it obvious that this was merely a test. Bang bang bang. A Dragonian swung his arm, and the stones lying around began swerving towards the metal beads in counterattack. Scores of stones had managed to intercept the steel beads mid-air. The red-haired elder exhaled. His eyes dimmed wearily, seeing how one person was all it took to intercept the attack by his 10 steel beads. Standing next to the red-haired elder, the one-eyed elder waved his arm at Wang Xian and Gang. "Ah, such kung fu skills you have, gentlemen. I'm in awe," he praised. Meanwhile, the one-eyed elder exuded a mild but powerful inborn aura, which could not go unnoticed. "Sorry to have disturbed you, gentlemen," the elder excused himself and gave a wide smile. As he turned around to take his leave, the rest in his company followed quietly and left with glistening eyes. "Ah." A few Dragonians gestured as they eyed the elder and company, before turning towards Wang Xian and the gang. "Kill?" Mo Qinglong ordered in a single word when he saw Wang Xian remaining silent. "The masked man who stopped my steel beads earlier. He's rather capable, a half-step inborn expert to say the least. But the abilities of the other 9 are unknown," commented the red-haired elder. "We'd better not antagonize them since we don't know what they're capable of," the others chipped in. "Such a pity though. I wonder what level that flame bead of theirs is." The group of middle-aged elders trailed off as they went. It was very common for people to kill and loot within these deep mountains and meandering streams. But they were more alert in comparison, having tested the abilities of the other party. Zoom zoom zoom. Just then they heard the sound of stomping coming from behind. The faces of the 5 intensified and they turned around immediately. They saw a group of masked men coming straight at them. They were closing in for a fierce attack as ferocity filled their faces. "What?" the elders screeched, mildly shocked. "They have a death wish. How dare they attack us?" hollered the red-haired elder. With an unyielding face he drew his long sword. "Ah! Do you realize your foolishness for testing an assassin from the abyss earlier?" A Dragonian ridiculed unsparingly. As bloodthirst filled their eyes, the Dragonians charged directly at the elders. Mo Yuan too made his move, and he targeted straight for the one-eyed inborn elder. Whereas the other 3 half-step inborns focused on the red-haired elder. After all, Mo Yuan was an inborn expert as well. "Assassins from the abyss?" blurted the crowd from Guangshan sword sect, slightly startled. Faces dimmed as they drew their swords immediately. "I don't care who you guys are. By attacking us you're asking for doom," the red-haired elder and one-eyed elder bellowed in unison. In a change of stance, the duo imposed a terrifying inborn aura, which surged ahead toward Mo Yuan's group of 8. "Tiske tisk, I'll send the bunch of you to the abyss," a Dragonian remarked. "Send them to the abyss," the rest of the Dragonians chimed in and charged ahead with bloodthirst. "Send us to the abyss," one of the middle-aged elders mumbled. Little by little, his face was overcome by shock. "You are assassins from the abyss," the elder shrieked in realization. "What? Assassins from the abyss?" 5 elders yelped in a state of panic. Assassins from the abyss, or the abyss in short, was a group of powerful killers that had newly emerged in the underworld. The abyss became known after having wiped out another assassination group within the underworld. In addition, they had risen further in fame when they assassinated an inborn expert from the gambling city within a short time span. This powerful force had made their mark despite its recent establishment. This no doubt made it a force not to be reckoned with. Assassins, one of the most haunting existences in the underworld. Faces on the members from the Guangshan sword sect grew bleak. Never had they expected to incur the wrath of the abyss assassins with a mere test. As for the assassins, they would show no mercy. Incur their wrath, and endless killing awaits. Chapter 284, Crushed the Dark Conjurer with the Abyss 4. Chapter 284, Crushed the Dark Conjurer with the Abyss 4. "I'll send you guys into the abyss." What a catchy slogan. Wang Xian sat by the side and watched the 7 Dragonians chanting the slogan. On his face, a smile was revealed. The 7 Dragonians created the abyss and wore the abyss masks. Together with the slogan of "I'll send you guys into the abyss," they looked extremely attention-grabbing and cool. He looked plainly at the 7 Dragonians battling the crowd from the Guangshan sword sect. These 5 people from the Guangshan sword sect were rather interesting too. They were probing and trying to find out the strength level of Wang Xian's group initially. When they realized Wang Xian's group were stronger, they immediately wanted to leave. Wang Xian was sure that if the other party found them to be weaker, the other party would definitely kill them and plunder their valuables. A group with no idea of death or dangers. What a stupid way to die. Assassins wouldn't be merciful. When the Guangshan sword sect wanted to probe about their strength level, their outcome had been decided. Shit. Master, elders and the vice-sect leader are fighting with them. At this moment, the disciples from Guangshan Sword Sect, who were starting the fire and returning from their hunting in the forest, were shocked to see their people engaged in battle. I'll send you guys into the abyss. That's the slogan of the abyss. Assassins from the abyss. They are assassins from the abyss. How did vice-sect leader and our elders offend them? The group of Guangshan Sword Sect's disciples were flabbergasted. They immediately grabbed their long swords and stared worryingly at the battles. The young man who had gone to borrow a light was breaking out in cold sweat. Looking at the group of people in black attire and wearing the abyss masks fighting with his vice-sect leader and elders, he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Luckily he had not made rude remarks about them. Otherwise, however, he soon recalled that he seemed to have mocked them previously. Arg. At this moment, 3 cries resounded. The old man with red hair and the old man with a single eye were surprised as they looked to the side immediately. It's time to enter the abyss. A cold and deep voice sounded as the 3 middle-aged men lay on the floor. Their eyes were wide open and their expressions were filled with disbelief. Die. The savage-looking masks appeared in front of the old man with red hair and the old men with a single eye. Feeling the powerful and intense attacks, the 2 old men were horrified. Wait, why did we offend them? The despair that originated from the abyss slowly crept upon them. Their eyes were wide open as they narrowly withstood wave after wave of horrifying attacks. Bam. In less than 20 seconds, 2 figures smashed heavily towards the waterfall. Signs of life had completely slipped off their bodies. Just 2 exploratory Inborn experts and yet you dared to mess with us. Yinxuan looked at the corpse being carried away by the waters with contempt before returning to the side of Wang Xian. The other Dragonians also turned their heads over and returned to their initial position. However, one of the Dragonians paused and looked towards that young man. No, don't kill me. Don't kill me. That young man, who had mocked them previously, was shivering and flustered as he noticed the assassin from the abyss that had easily killed his vice-sect leader and elder looking at him. The other disciples of Guangshan Sword Sect were also horrified as they stumbled back constantly. Your tongue is a little loose. Let me send you into the abyss. That Dragonian stared at the young man. The next moment he moved. No, don't. The young man waved the long sword in his hand and was screaming with desperation. Ark. Cough cough. Soon the cries died down. He landed on his knees before falling flat. SSS. The Dragonian walked back to his position emotionlessly, ignoring the remaining members of the Guangshan Sword Sect. The remaining disciples of the Guangshan Sword Sect were shivering in fear at this moment as they witnessed the development of events. Run now. They are the devils of the abyss. The group glanced at the 10 people wearing masks before running away in the opposite direction in horror. We will move out after eating. Wang Xian looked plainly at the corpses around him and didn't say another word. The abyss wasn't the embodiment of justice. If one had no idea of death or danger and offended them, his outcome would be identical to what the 7 Dragonians had said. I'll send you guys into the abyss. Let's go. After finishing the meal, the group dashed towards the depths of Dongling mountain range again. We are almost there. After an hour, Wang Xian slowed down abruptly and spoke to the Dragonians around him. He landed on the peak of a mountain and placed the poisonous snake on the ground. SSS. The black poisonous snake flicked its tongue out before crawling forward rapidly. Wang Xian and the group followed closely behind. SSS. Just as the poisonous snake surmounted 3 peaks, it stopped and flicked its tongue out rapidly. Wang Xian and the group who had been following it were taken aback. Ahead of them, countless small poisonous bugs lay on the ground. The black poisonous snake flicked its tongue and these poisonous bugs seemed to have picked up the scent of their kind as they moved aside and opened a path. Poisonous bug. This mountain has lots of poisonous bugs. Wang Xian squinted his eyes and looked around him. On one of the branches, there was another black poisonous snake resting. If they were careless and were ambushed by it, they would likely die on the spot. On a stone a short distance away, a scorpion lifted its tail up high. A faint green glow was shimmering on its tail. We are likely nearing the nest of the dark conjurers. Wang Xian smiled faintly and commented, the surrounding defenses of the dark conjurers are much stronger than the flame palace. Even an inborn expert could fall and lose his life here if he was careless. Wang Xian waved his arms and the grass below the group grew at an astonishing speed. The grass slowly surrounded them and prevented the poisonous bugs from attacking them or leaking the information of their arrival. If the assassins of the Dark Conjurers could breed such poisonous snakes, these poisonous bugs would definitely be able to tip the Dark Conjurers off secretly. Their bodies were almost entirely covered in grass as they followed behind the poisonous snake. After surmounting 2 additional mountains, they noticed more and more poisonous animals. In fact, Wang Xian even saw a terrifying poisonous snake that was over 6 meters long. The fangs of that poisonous snake were as huge as a person's fingers and looked horrifying. It would likely be able to kill experts below the Inborn realm. Dangers are really lurking everywhere. Wang Xian observed the surroundings attentively. When they arrived at the peak, a huge mountain valley surfaced in front of him. Within the valley there was a lake. The lake was connected to the Dongling River. The entire lake within the mountain valley was shrouded in fog. Heavenly rocks were flying over the lake and trees were grown around the lake. It was a majestic view. Who would have expected the center of what the poisonous animals were guarding to be such a beautiful lake? Wang Xian looked down and saw the poisonous snake still crawling quickly. Its target seemed to be the lake in the middle of the valley. Wang Xian wiggled, released himself from the grass that surrounded him, and followed behind the poisonous snake. Grr. Woof woof. At this moment an angry roar propagated and shook the atmosphere. The surrounding trees rustled from the shockwave. What? Wang Xian was taken aback and looked to his left. Chapter 285 Heavenly Hound. Chapter 285, Heavenly Hound. It was a hound about half a meter long. It had a really long tail where its yellow fur was especially luscious, extending for scores of centimeters. A patch of fur concentrated on its upper front legs was exceptionally long, measuring up to half a meter. With a full body of thick and rich fur, the hound exuded an overwhelming elegance. Just then the hound ascended more than 100 meters with one leap, ending up on a tree. Arching its head, the hound roared and howled like a fox. Its sharp eyes fixated on what lay behind. Over there. It's over there. The crowd shouted. As Wang Xian looked over, he saw hundreds of men chasing after them. These men were from more than a dozen forces. Amongst them was a group whose attire had a huge Xing character written in the middle. This symbolized the sacred sect, one of the great powers. Meanwhile, this group of men looked terrible. Many of them had even gone stale in the face, aided by others. It was obvious they had been attacked by the venomous objects lurking around. Astonished, Wang Xian looked on. He recalled what was said by members of the Guangshan sword sect in their meeting earlier. They had come to capture the spiritual animal, and it appeared that the hound up front could be it. It was an exceptionally formidable hound. One whose abilities were that of Inborn level to say the least. Yet, as Wang Xian swept his gaze across the multiple forces, he spotted Inborn experts in every one of them. This made them no less powerful. A young man looked fixated on the majestic hound as it stood atop the tree. He was wearing the attire with a Xing character on it. Still trying to escape? Try that again, and we'll make dog soup out of you once we've got you. The young man boasted with a smug look. An elder skimmed past the various forces. This creature will make a good sacred animal, guarding the doors for us sacred soul sect. Therefore take your leave everyone, he claimed squarely. His face exuded an air of dignity, which tolerated no defiance. The able shall own the spiritual creature. Even if a sacred sect is around, we're not going to make wasteful trips. Otherwise we'll suffer huge losses, another elder retorted in a low pitch. Behind him stood several young men. They had been poisoned, their faces a bluish hue and covered in bandages. That's right, fair competition. Should your sacred sect win by merit, we'll concede defeat wholeheartedly, another elder continued, expression dimmed. Having expended so much effort, the loss incurred would be great should they simply back off. They simply could not take this lying down. As a display of their determination, all the forces remained where they were. While the sacred soul sect poured over the various troops, the faces on their members grew darker. All right then, it's decided, they replied coldly. Charge. Capture the heavenly hound, and bring it back to our sect for taming. With the sacred soul sect members nodding resignedly, an elder charged forward. He went straight for the heavenly hound, which stood in front of the lake. Charge everyone. Charge. Shouted multiple voices while the crowd pressed on. Upon hearing the commotion, Wang Xian questioned, "Heavenly Hound?" Pondering, he glanced over at the dignified creature. At the same time, he realized that the venomous snake had made its way into the lake. It was swimming towards the lake floor. Wang Xian showed little interest in this heavenly hound. Instead, he went after the snake in a shift of position. "Come on, we need to catch up with the snake," he hurried. Yet, as they made their dive and suspended in midair, they were suddenly attacked. "Scram!" the opponents shouted. Bouts of counterattacks came at Wang Xian and the gang. "Don't block our path. We, Sacred Soul Sect, are bent on this heavenly hound," the attackers demanded. As they warned, they continued attacking Wang Xian and the gang. "How?" Wang Xian said and squinted his eyes briefly. He paused and landed on the ground immediately. "Courting death." Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan snapped. They looked on with savageness in their eyes, as the experts from the Sacred Soul Sect chased after the heavenly hound. They had merely wanted entry into the lake. Yet they were met with counterattacks and forced to retreat. "Make way and scram. You bunch of masked men who can show no face." 3 Inborn experts from the Sacred Soul Sect darted across the sky. A group of half-step Inborns and level 9 martial artists followed closely beneath. They scowled at Wang Xian and gang who were standing in their way. The power and prestige of a sacred sect were obvious to all. Wang Xian knitted his brows. "Come on. Let's get within the lake first," he continued with glistening eyes. Wang Xian paid no attention to the crowd that had gone all green-eyed as they fought for the heavenly hound. In one move he dived straight into the lake. Casting one final glance at the disciples from the Sacred Soul Sect, Mo Qinglong and the Dragonians followed closely behind Wang Xian. Splash! The group of 10 plunged into the water. A handful of disciples from the Sacred Soul Sect stared at Wang Xian and gang, mildly astonished. But they recovered quickly and regained focus on the heavenly hound. Wang Xian and the gang had entered the waters. As Dragonians with the bloodline of the divine dragon, they were able to breathe with complete ease underwater. Even their combat powers would not be the least bit hindered should they battle underwater. Wang Xian was shocked by the snakes as he saw them swimming towards deep waters. "Don't tell me the Dark Conjurer's hideout is situated at the floor of this lake?" Wang Xian commented. The entire lake measured an area of about 5 square kilometers, making it very large. And the snakes were swimming deep into it. But the snakes had not swum towards the center. Instead, they advanced closer to the direction where a mountain range lay. "Ah, that's..." Wang Xian exclaimed and narrowed his eyes. Looking ahead, he could see a stone gate standing 3 meters below the lake floor. Behind the stone gate lies the mountain peak. To think that the Dark Conjurers have their hideout located within a mountain peak. What's more, their entrance is located in a lake. How covert. Little wonder why they could not be wiped out by sacred sects, even with full manpower, Wang Xian thought to himself. Peering over at Mo Qinglong and the rest, he signaled to them briefly. The group nodded in acknowledgement and arrived at the stone gate. Wang Xian looked at the stone gate, which was completely sealed. He extended his arm, and gradually his palm turned gold in color. Pat, pat, pat. As he stuck his palm in, it broke the stone gate and forced an opening in the shape of a human silhouette. Shrugging his body once, Wang Xian isolated the lake waters surrounding them. Boom. The stone gate burst open and glowed from its interior. Wang Xian showed himself in. He swung an arm and left the dragon ball at the stone gate. As the dragon ball glowed with red lights, it prevented the waters from entering. "Come on. Let's head inside," Wang Xian said to Mo Qinglong and the gang. With no further words, Wang Xian peeked over and headed inside. The entire cave was winding like a giant staircase, spiraling down as it went. There were no guards standing watch along the walkway. There was no need for them, it seemed, with such an intricate base. They descended along the staircase. When they reached the end of the path, Wang Xian was shocked by the sight ahead of him. Everything was beyond his expectations. In fact, it was way beyond. As it turned out, the Dark Conjurer's hideout was not within the mountain peak, but rather it was beneath the lake. The entire surface above resembled a marine life park. Transparent glass of unique composition was placed right above the hideout. This prevented the lake waters above from seeping in while allowing sunlight to pass through. Within the entire base of the Dark Conjurer's hideout, houses of moderate height sprouted in lines. They looked no different from the housing landscape on the ground above. So that's how it works. Wang Xian exclaimed in gradual realization. The base of the Dark Conjurers is located within the mountain valleys. They had their base built within the mountain valleys, before setting off an explosion at the mountain peak, creating a channel. Linked to the Dongling River, the channel allowed the river waters to enter the region, forming a gigantic lake. A perfect camouflage was thus formed. What a flawless Dark Conjurer's base it is. Chapter 286, I'll send you guys into the abyss, 1. Chapter 286, I'll send you guys into the abyss, 1. Wang Xian looked ahead. The base under the lake spanned 3 to 4 kilometers. It was just like a small town with some poisonous plants planted around it. In the central location, the words Dark Conjurer were engraved forcefully over the entrance. A blue light shimmered in the eyes of Wang Xian as he looked ahead of him. However, he spotted 2 humongous animals resting at the 2 sides of the entrance. 2 huge pythons over 14 to 15 meters lay to the left and right of the entrance. The pure black eyes of the anacondas emitted a soul-wrenching aura. When curled up, they were still 3 to 4 meters tall. Blood Python, Level 10. Extractable Dragon Energy, 15,432. 2 Inborn Realm Blood Pythons guarding the door. How extravagant. It seems like the Dark Conjurers are much stronger than the Flame Palace, Wang Xian thought to himself. As one of the top 2 assassin groups in the underworld, the strength of the Dark Conjurers was unquestionable. Wang Xian looked through the entrance and saw assassins living in different rooms. In this place there were all kinds of equipment. However, the people in it didn't show any emotions on their faces at all. Some assassins were raising different poisonous animals in their rooms while others were sitting cross-legged in their rooms and cultivating diligently. In the middle of the base there was a huge training ground. The training ground could be separated into 3 regions. In one of the regions, a group of teenagers were undergoing gruesome and bloody training. All of them looked younger than 20 years old. These teenagers had a savage demeanor. Clearly they could no longer be seen as innocent teenagers. Addressing them as executioners might be more appropriate. The savage and cold vibes emanating from them indicated that they had definitely killed humans previously. This is what a real assassin group is like. Nurturing and training people into killing machines without any personal thoughts. Wang Xian heaved a sigh when he saw the group of teenagers. Everyone in this place had murderous and savage vibes surrounding them. Compared with Mo Yuan and the rest before they had become Dragonians, the differences were stark. No matter whether they were male or female, they were now all killing machines. Close to the middle of the base there was a relatively large room. Wang Xian took a closer look and saw a group of elders in the room. There were a total of 6 elders. They stood in the room and were all looking towards a position above them. They are able to see what's happening above the lake from their room. Wang Xian was slightly shocked. The lake was 7 to 8 meters deep and wasn't exceptionally clear. Looking down from above the lake surface, one wouldn't be able to tell what was below it. However, the Dark Conjurers were able to supervise the situation above the lake with another method. Clearly, the sudden arrival of a group of powerful forces had made them feel a little anxious. However, the few elders didn't show it on their faces. They were very confident about their base and were convinced that no one would find them here. Even if the group of experts were in the vicinity of the lake. The entire Dark Conjurer's base has more than 1,000 assassins and 6 inborn experts. Furthermore, there are countless poisonous animals and 2 inborn realm huge pythons guarding the entrance. Wang Xian squinted his eyes and explained to Mo Qinglong and the group about what he had seen. From now onwards, let's send them into the abyss. Wang Xian realized that he was in love with this cool slogan as he remarked plainly. Mo Qinglong and the crowd smirked. Under the disguise of the abyss masks they looked extremely creepy. Attack. Moving off, Wang Xian shrouded his dragon power towards the 2 blood pythons. Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan and the 7 Dragonians also struck as they dashed into the base of the Dark Conjurers. SSSSSSSSS. The moment Wang Xian stepped into the base of the Dark Conjurers, the 2 blood pythons lying at each side were instantly triggered. They stared coldly at Wang Xian with the blood-red pupils. I wouldn't want to kill you guys. Keeping you guys alive would be beneficial to me. Wang Xian waved his arms as the dragon power weighed on the 2 huge bodies of the blood pythons. Beside the blood pythons, there was a tuft of red poisonous grass. A dense stream of azure dragon energy was injected into it directly. The poisonous grass started growing frantically and wrapped towards the two huge blood pythons. Wang Xian increased his speed to the maximum and landed 2 punches on the heads of the 2 blood pythons, knocking them unconscious before they could react. "Kill!" shouted Wang Xian. He didn't attempt to hide their arrival at all as he shrouded the entire base under his powerful aura. "Kill! We will send the dark conjurers into the abyss." 7 Dragonians let out a mechanical-like voice from behind their abyss masks which resounded in the entire base of the dark conjurers. "What's the matter?" Stifling pressure and the cold voice spread to every corner of the dark conjurers' base. The upper management of the dark conjurers, who were observing the situation above the lake from the room in the central location, were taken aback and instantly turned gloomy. "Someone has infiltrated our base. This is bad. Our base has been found." The 6 elders were shocked. Moving off, they jumped out from the room through the roof as they looked around them. 10 people. Over there. 10 people who are wearing the abyss masks. They seem to be the newly emerged assassins from the abyss. The 6 elders looked across and saw Wang Xian and the crowd at the entrance. Instantly their expressions turned solemn. "I had not expected anyone to be able to infiltrate our base. They must die. 10 of them. Kill them immediately." The voice of 2 elders propagated throughout the entire Dark Conjurer base. The next instant the entire Dark Conjurer's base seemed to have come alive. Assassins emerged from various rooms and corners of the base. Every one of them had bloodshot eyes and was staring at Wang Xian and the group harshly as they emerged from their rooms. They jumped to the roof and looked down on the 10 people. Some poisonous animals also crawled rapidly out of the room. Poisonous snakes, scorpions, spiders, blood-red ants and large centipedes. On the ground, poisonous gas shrouded the paths. An ordinary person would die instantly from just a sniff of it. On the roofs, over 1,000 assassins were in position. Wang Xian and the group paused and stood in a single row in front of the entrance. The 7 Dragonians looked solemnly across all the assassins. Dark Conjurers had lots of experts, including 30 to 40 half-step to Inborn experts. Moreover, these top-class experts specialized in killing and risking their lives. Any single one of these half-step to Inborn experts would be at the pinnacle of the same level when placed in the outside world. Together with these poisonous animals, they were incomparably horrifying. The 6 elders moved like phantoms as they quickly made their way to the row of houses before the entrance. From above they looked down coldly at Wang Xian and the group. "You guys managed to find our base by yourself?" an old lady questioned. What was horrifying about her was the poisonous snakes above her head. When the old lady spoke, they were hissing and spreading their horrifying mouths. This made Wang Xian recall a horrifying movie he had once seen. The old woman's face was full of wrinkles and her voice was coarse. When she spoke, it sounded like the pitiful cries of a ghost. Her eyes were staring at Wang Xian and the group just like how a poisonous snake stared at its prey. "Yep, just the few of us." Wang Xian looked at the 1,000 assassins and countless poisonous animals in front of him and spoke plainly. "All right then. You guys can die now." Chapter 287, I'll send you guys into the abyss too. Chapter 287, I'll send you guys into the abyss too. You guys can die now. A ghastly voice was heard from the base of Dark Conjurers underwater. All the surrounding Dark Conjurer assassins raised the daggers in their hands as soon as they heard the voice. Daggers, the sharpest weapon for assassination. Deadly and fatal at the sight of the blood. Kill? Thousands of assassins spun into quick action under the old lady's order. They moved like a gust of wind, stone-cold looks in their eyes. Murderous and savage aura filling the entire Dark Conjurer's base could almost make any average person suffocate to death. The thousands of top-notch killers were simply terrifying. "I'll leave them to you guys." Wang Xian told the rest of the 9 Dragonians including Mo Qinglong and Azure Dragon. He did not make his move as he stared coldly at the 6 elders in front of him. These 6 elders were the most powerful existences of the Dark Conjurers. In particular, the old lady in the middle, who posed a slight threat to him. Even though this old lady is not at the same level as Sui Huang, that old thing, it's just a mere difference. Wang Xian looked at the old lady and pondered to himself. "Go to hell. You'll become the food of the Dark Conjurers for barging in." A half-step to Inborn expert of the Dark Conjurers bellowed coldly and attacked them with a swift move. Hayak, I'll send you guys into the abyss." 7 Dragonians yelped as they stared at the outspreading dark conjurer assassins charging at them with bloodthirsty faces. Kill? Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan sprang into action too. 9 of them exuded immense clouds of devilish aura that masked their figures. Only a malevolent and cold-looking abyss mask was vaguely seen. Claws of the Devil Dragon. Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan, along with the 7 Dragonians, revealed their maximum strength. Faint dragon scales could be seen on their arms. The dragon claws formed with demonic aura exhibited black luster and were as sharp as razors. Bam! 9 of them knocked against thousands of dark conjurer assassins. Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan swept their dragon claws and slashed dozens of dark conjurer assassins straight away. They were already pinnacle Inborn to begin with. Hence they could easily slaughter anyone who was not an Inborn. Countless poisonous animals who just made their way before them on the ground were trembling with fear. They did not dare to strike. Deep down in their souls, the poisonous animals were fearful of the Dragonians who had divine dragon bloodlines. Dozens of assassins had been killed after a moment of close-quarters fighting. 6 elders, standing in the middle of a rooftop, swept their icy gazes across Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan. Kill them all. The old lady in the center gave orders to 2 Inborn experts beside her after observing the situation with an indifferent look. Yes. Bloodthirsty looks surfaced on their faces as their eyes turned red, giving off a violent vibe. "Ha, I'm your opponent," Wang Xian said in a cold voice when he noticed that the Inborn experts on the roof were about to strike. His voice came through his abyss mask, which sounded robotic and cold. No one could tell the speaker's age by his voice. Then kill this fellow first." The old lady looked at Wang Xian with lifeless eyes that seemed offish. The poisonous snake on her head was lifting its head, staring at him with a pair of dark eyes. "I'll slay you first. How dare a worthless abyss assassin barge in on the dark conjurers?" As the 2 old men spoke, they rushed down from the roof, side by side, with daggers in their hands. The daggers were reflecting green radiance as they were smeared with venom. No one could survive a cut. Wang Xian quirked his lips at the corner when he saw the 2 dark conjurer Inborn experts assaulting him. He reached out his arm, sending a fiery red ball flying out with rapid speed. The dragon ball emerged ahead of him with sounds of water gushing in. "Damn you." Upon hearing the sound from the entrance, the old lady's expression changed. She grabbed the poisonous snakes on top of her head and hurled them at the entrance. Only after they were being thrown out, one realized they were 3-headed poisonous snakes. It was terrifying looking with 3 heads sharing a body. The poisonous snakes exhibited imposing might as they opened their mouths and spurted out an ink-colored toxic mist. The toxic mist lingered around the entrance, blocking the incoming flux of the water. Wang Xian was not bothered by it at all. He looked disdainfully at the 2 Inborn experts who darted towards him. Boom. The dragon ball suddenly exploded into flames, encompassing the 2 Inborn experts immediately. What a strong flame bead. The 2 dark conjurer Inborn experts were appalled. They dodged to the side swiftly. Roar. At this time, a soft dragon roar was heard coming out of the dragon ball. Soon after, 2 dark conjurer Inborn experts watched in disbelief as daunting dragon claws emerged from the dragon ball. The dragon claws seemed to be solid, formed out of magma. Drops of magma seemed to be dripping from them. Boom. They came down and attempted to claw at the 2 dark conjurer Inborn experts' heads. The solid claws were about a half-meter in size each, giving off scorching temperature. 2 of them were aghast with a drastic change in their expressions as they quickly raised their daggers to block them. Ka. However, the sound of something breaking was heard when the solid dragon claws tore them with daunting might and temperature. 2 painful shrieks were heard, and the 2 dark conjurer experts turned into liquid as soon as the dragon claws struck them. The dragon ball jerked gently as it slowly formed a head, body, and tail of a dragon before Wang Xian. The fire divine dragon was even more realistic than the one during the fight with Flame Palace. Its mightiness was stronger after absorbing the spiritual flame ball and body refining spiritual flame ball. It was almost a level 11. What? A fire divine dragon, 7 meters long, had appeared in front of the dark conjurer experts and killed their 2 Inborn experts in a split second. All 4 dark conjurer experts on the roof had dreadful looks instantly. How can this divine dragon be possible? Radiance flickered in their eyes as they warily watched the fire divine dragon that hovered in the air above Wang Xian. The divine dragon seemed to be a living dragon. They could not have believed it was transformed from a flame bead if they had not seen it with their own eyes. Good. All the poisonous animals were lying on the floor in the base of the dark conjurers. Some of them even tried to flee to the distance in horror as they lost all their fighting spirit. All the dark conjurer assassins in the base were taken aback with a tint of shock flashing across their inhospitable faces. Today we'll send dark conjurers into the abyss. Wang Xian stood there and spoke to the 4 dark conjurer experts with an emotionless voice. Abyss assassins caught me by surprise. I wonder, how did we offend you guys? The old lady on the roof squinted her eyes into lines just like snakes. The dark conjurers killed 2 of our people. So, the entire dark conjurers must be annihilated. Chapter 288, I'll send you guys into the abyss, 3. Chapter 288, I'll send you guys into the abyss, 3. You are really brazen, the old lady stared intensely at Wang Xian and said with her coarse voice. She looked to the Inferno Divine Dragon but wasn't flustered at all. It's still an Inborn realm existence after all. Today I'll destroy it. After which, I'll make you into a puppet. The old lady shook her head as she said. She had a rather long neck that made her look rather creepy. Kill him, the old lady said casually. The moment she gave her orders, all the people on the roof disappeared from sight. Kill? The other 3 men didn't hesitate at all. They had 100% confidence in the strength of the old lady. You are also an Inborn realm existence. Within Wang Xian's vision, the old lady had appeared above him, carrying 2 daggers made of bones in her hands. Her speed was astonishingly fast and her strength wasn't something that Mo Qinglong could match. However, she was still just an Inborn level expert. If one was considering her cultivation realm, she was probably at the half-step to Dan realm. Wang Xian lifted his head slightly and the Inferno Divine Dragon above his head did the same. Rumble. A stream of dragon flames spewed forward. What a strong spiritual animal, the coarse voice sounded from the void space. A faint shadow shimmered and appeared 3 meters ahead of Wang Xian creepily. How quick! Wang Xian commented plainly about the old lady. The moment the old lady charged towards him with the 2 bone daggers, the tail of the Inferno Divine Dragon swept towards her. Rumble. The old lady sank the 2 bone daggers on the tail of the Inferno Divine Dragon. However, she was still knocked back several steps. Shock gleamed in her eyes as she turned solemn. Let me hold this spiritual animal back while you go and kill him. This spiritual animal requires his manipulation to move. The old lady quickly noticed the crux of the situation. She deduced that the Inferno Divine Dragon was a dead thing after all and required the manipulation of a human. Just as she had expected, the Inferno Divine Dragon required Wang Xian to control it. Wang Xian smirked and looked towards the old lady and 3 Inborn experts from the Dark Conjurers attacking him. Use all your trump cards, the old lady added plainly. She extended her hands and stroked her hair, which was tied up. Her hair was long and could almost reach the floor. When she released the knot, her hair turned completely green. Although having green hair was a hilarious idea, the old lady in front of him at this moment was definitely frightening. Her hair was green and was even emitting a faint green mist. Every strand of her hair was like a poisonous snake as it stood up. Her hair pointed directly at where Wang Xian and the Inferno Divine Dragon were at and it swayed. A green tinge of light was cast on the old lady's face due to her hair. This made her look just like a vengeful spirit. The other 3 Inborn experts from the Dark Conjurers took out small bottles, gritted their teeth and poured the contents into their mouths. Gulp, gulp, gulp. A nauseating voice sounded from them. The 3 experts looked ferocious and emitted strong decadent vibes from their bodies. It was as though they had transformed from a human into a rotting corpse. They wouldn't feel pain but would have a substantial increase in defense and potency of attacks. Arg! I'm going to bite you into pieces. The 3 experts from the Dark Conjurers seemed to be in intense pain in exchange for the horrifying strength from their rotting bodies. Haha, this is interesting. Wang Xian looked enthusiastically at the old lady and 3 experts. The 4 people had increased their strength to a horrifying level by using creepy methods. Even Mo Qinglong wouldn't be a match for any single one of them. Wang Xian laughed loudly and opened his mouth. Roar. The Inferno Divine Dragon flew above Wang Xian before turning into the Dragon Ball and returning to Wang Xian's stomach, after which Wang Xian stretched his body a little. Rumble. At this moment, a 1-meter-long divine dragon circled around Wang Xian constantly. In the end, the divine dragon rested its head on Wang Xian's shoulder. Let's fight. Taking off, Wang Xian revealed an arrogant and unyielding expression. This was the first time he was able to fight without worries with all he had in his human form. I'll let you bring along your assassins from the abyss to hell. The old lady attacked Wang Xian like a poisonous snake. The 3 experts from the Dark Conjurers with decadent vibes also attacked at the same time. I'm the Dragon King. Now die. Wang Xian threw his claws forward. The Inferno Divine Dragons instantly wrapped around his arm, covering his dragon claws with flames. SSSSSSSSS. The old lady met Wang Xian's claw with the 2 creepy bone daggers. At the same time, her hair charged towards Wang Xian like a nest of snakes. Her green hair was rapid and cold like poisonous snakes. Facing her hair was similar to facing thousands of poisonous snakes. Rot. The daggers of the other 3 experts from the Dark Conjurers were shrouded in a decadent aura. Above the daggers, a unique liquid was flowing. The moment the liquid dripped onto the ground, it corroded the ground and left a hole, approximately half a meter deep. Incomparably horrifying. Is this witchcraft? Wang Xian squinted his eyes. The old lady used the blood and essences of 1,000 poisonous snakes and witchcraft to grow her own hair. This allowed her hair to possess horrifying attacking potency and poison. How could some poisonous snake essences be compared with a divine dragon? Roar. Wang Xian growled loudly. The moment the sound waves hit the old lady's hair, her hair instantly lost its attacking ability. The dragon rules the world. Wang Xian extended his arms and the Inferno Divine Dragon around him moved quickly on his arms accordingly. Dense flames gathered and shot towards the old lady and the other 3 experts. Rumble. The horrifying flames dried the land completely once again. The old lady's hair was caught in the flames and was sizzling. Horrifying cries that resembled the cries of 100 ghosts sounded from the head of the old lady. Bam. 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 The old lady and the 3 experts from the Dark Conjurers were sent crashing back directly. Rumble. Wang Xian waved his arm once again. Scorching hot flames immediately swept towards their bodies. Arg. When the flames landed on them, they cried pitifully. It was as though they were being corroded by acid. So powerful. How can you be so powerful? Have you reached the Dan realm? No, it can't be. The old lady looked savage. Only half of her hair remained as she looked on in shock. The flames had also burnt away part of her clothes, revealing her green body. She didn't seem to be a human anymore. G. Kill, kill, kill. I'll send you guys into the abyss. At this moment, Mo Qinglong and the group let out a loud roar. They were drenched in blood by now. Within the short time frame, they had already slain hundreds of Dark Conjurer experts. If it wasn't for the fact that they had the bloodline of the Divine Dragon, even Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan would have died under the besiegement of the crowd of experts from the Dark Conjurers. You want to annihilate the Dark Conjurers? Let me tell you this. Even a sacred sect wouldn't be able to do so. Chapter 289, I'll send you guys into the abyss 4. Chapter 289, I'll send you guys into the abyss 4. The old woman's voice was hoarse. She wiped away the blood at the corner of her lips before she jumped onto a roof. The 3 Dark Conjurer experts retreated with malevolent faces. Those fearless Dark Conjurer assassins who were besieging Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan stopped. All of them moved back uniformly with their usual coldness in their eyes. There was no fear in them. What? Trying to escape? Wang Xian glared at those Dark Conjurer experts as he approached them slowly. Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan and the rest moved together beside Wang Xian. All of them had their abyss masks on while casting them death stares. They gave off a bloody, daunting, bloodthirsty and conceited aura. As the group of Dark Conjurer experts retreated, they followed them slowly. All of them moved as though they were ferocious men, entering a tiger's den. May the Master Conjurer of the Dark Conjurers arrive. May the Master Conjurer of the Dark Conjurers arrive. The voice of the old woman was heard while the rest of the Dark Conjurer assassins were yelling at the top of their lungs with overwhelming passion in their eyes. May the Master Conjurer of the Dark Conjurers arrive. Those poisonous insects that were alive crawled slowly to a position on the middle of the ground. Eek. A coffin slowly rose to the ground. Ka. Everyone heard the sound of a coffin opening. I said not to disturb me if there's nothing important. An old but clear voice that sounded like metal was heard. The voice was so cold that it did not sound human. Pa. A palm slowly reached out. But no, it was not a palm. It was a set of bones. Stickman. He was totally a stickman. His arm was almost twice as long as an average person's. A black layer of skin wrapped around its bones. Master Conjurer, please exterminate the enemies for us. The old woman immediately knelt down. Master Conjurer, please exterminate the enemies for us. All the surrounding Dark Conjurer assassins knelt and shouted loudly. Someone broke into our base? Just kill them off then. The old and clear voice was heard again. Soon after, a figure slowly stood up. A bony old man rose from the coffin without any flesh and blood on him. His eyes were protruding out and his mouth could not cover his teeth. No vitality could be observed from him. However, this old man that was left with an almost skeletal body turned to look at Wuxia and the rest. Kill them. The old man was slow in all his reactions as he had been in his sleep for an unknown period. He only managed to spit out 2 words softly. Yet, he disappeared as soon as he finished those 2 words. Someone who is as strong as Sui Huang. Wuxia drew a deep breath at the sudden sight of a coffin that rose from the ground. His pupils narrowed as an old man came into his line of sight in a split second. Master Conjurer, please kill them all. They have killed many of our members. When the old woman and the Dark Conjurers witnessed the disappearance of the old man, they exhibited immense confidence. All of them were prideful as they lifted their chins. He was their Master Conjurer. Invincible Master Conjurer. Their only faith. The founder of Dark Conjurer. Oh, serves them right for interrupting my sleep. Their consequences. Let them forever rest in their sleep. The ancient and aloof voice cut the air. All the Dark Conjurer's eyes had fires burning fervently in them. They could not take their passionate eyes away as they watched the Master Conjurer annihilating their enemies. The scrawny old man's eyes were cloudy as though he was unawakened. Yet his speed and prowess were terrifying. While his voice still lingered in the air, the Master Conjurer was already standing beside Wuxia. He raised his palm and aimed for Wuxia's neck. Rough and straightforward with a speed that none of the Inborn experts could match up with. Invincible posture. Overlooking stance. He had it all. Pa. Yet Wuxia raised his arm and contacted with the old man's arm just when every Dark Conjurer thought their Master Conjurer could easily squeeze him to death. You shouldn't come out of your coffin again and act cocky, especially in front of me. Wuxia's indifferent voice resounded in the entire Dark Conjurer's base. What? All the Dark Conjurer assassins were shocked to see this. That abyss masked man had blocked the assault of their Master Conjurer. But that was their Master Conjurer. Even in the beginning when they were taken out by the other party, all of the Dark Conjurers were almost certain they could win when the Master Conjurer was summoned. They had no doubt that there were no enemies that the Master Conjurer could not eradicate. They stared at that arm that had collided with the arm of Master Conjurer. No, that could not be called an arm. That was a monster's arm that seemed like some kind of dragon's claw. You're the first person that has forced me to display my full prowess in human form. Wuxia stared at the skinny old man. At the same time, his arm had already turned into a complete dragon claw. The fleshy dragon claws were not transformed from the Dragon Ball. It was part of his divine dragon's body. You. The protruding eyes of the Master Conjurer regained clear vision as a tint of surprise was revealed in them. Are you surprised? As Wuxia spoke, another arm began to transform into part of the dragon. Slowly he stretched out his other arm. I did not expect I would meet another expert at the same level. The Master Conjurer had already regained his clear vision with flesh and blood recovering creepily on his body. He jerked his arm, exuding murderous aura. You're still weaker than me. Both Wuxia's arms had turned into dragon claws that were about a meter long. He grabbed both of the Master Conjurer's arms easily. Terror was flashing in Master Conjurer's eyes. Just now he had tried to struggle away with his full might, but he could not move a single inch. This struck fear into him. How was this possible? Since you don't want to stay underground, I'll send you to heaven. Wang Xian scorned even though the old man was in Dan realm. However, his strength and body condition were the weakest in the Dan realm. How could such a fellow like him dare to crawl out of the coffin and boast that he could destroy him? Wang Xian raised his dragon claws slowly. No. Sensing that he was in complete confinement, the master conjurer panicked. He lost all of his calm, relaxed and casual look. Bam. A dragon claw was brought down from the top, sweeping up daunting earth-shattering power that hit the master conjurer. Instantly, his body and bones were crushed. Boom. His body was sent flying in the air. The master conjurer no longer made any sound. Ka. At this time, the unique glass on the top cracked and gave way as the master conjurer continued to fly up into the sky. No way. The husky voice of the old woman sounded petrified as she looked on in disbelief. The dark conjurer assassins around looked up, as they were surprised and fearful. Their faith, the founder of the dark conjurers, was sent flying off. This time they were all in a total panic as fear loomed over them. Chapter 290, I'll send you guys into the abyss, 5. Chapter 290, I'll send you guys into the abyss, 5. As the creator and strongest expert in the dark conjurers, the master conjurer had not fought for a long time. However, the invincible image of the master conjurer was vividly etched into their minds. He was their god and their belief. Just a while ago, they were at peace and confident to see the master conjurer stepping out from his coffin. As long as the master conjurer was around, the dark conjurers wouldn't face any grave dangers. In their eyes, the master conjurer could kill many of their enemies in a single strike, even if the enemies might seem very powerful. However, what really happened greatly tilted their long-held beliefs. They looked in shock and horror at that abyss assassin whose hand had turned into a monster claw. Is this his true strength? He didn't even utilize his full strength previously. An expert from the dark conjurers shivered and his eyes were filled with horror. His rotting body was gradually leaking fresh blood after having consumed the drug previously. No. This can't be possible. Our master conjurer won't lose. The old lady cried out in disbelief with her coarse voice. Defeat wasn't possible. Yet they had lost so completely. The master conjurer had just stepped out, said a few words, took some actions and he was then defeated. It was as though the master conjurer was just a small existence that the assassin could crush easily. The stark differences made it hard for them to accept. Crack. Just as the old lady completed her words, the glass above them cracked slowly and the lake water gushed down on her head. It was as though fate was reminding her that the dark conjurers were finished. Kill them. Wang Xian's emotionless voice resounded within the dark conjurer's base once again. This time they were really going to send you guys into the abyss. Ha! I said that this heavenly hound belongs to our sacred soul sect. You guys are still thinking of snatching it from us? At this moment, on the surface of the lake, the group of sacred soul sect experts and disciples had surrounded the heavenly hound. The heavenly hound stopped on the surface of the lake while barking indignantly. A middle-aged man from Sacred Soul Sect stood beyond the encirclement. He looked down coldly at the several forces around and spoke. The surrounding martial artists felt indignant but could only look helplessly at the crowd from the Sacred Soul Sect. The Heavenly Hound had been tightly surrounded by them. Moreover, they were just first-class forces and wouldn't dare to snatch the items of Sacred Soul Sect. If it were something that had no owner, they might still put up a fight and compete with the Sacred Soul Sect. However, now that the Sacred Soul Sect had surrounded the Heavenly Hound, it was equivalent to the Sacred Soul Sect owning it. If they still tried to snatch it from them, it would be identical to going against the Sacred Soul Sect. Sacred Soul Sect was a sacred sect with a deep history. It would require all other forces currently around to work together to have a shot against them. However, how could a heap of loose sand compete with a sacred sect? The disciples of Sacred Soul Sect looked cockily and coldly at the dozen-plus forces in front of them. The Heavenly Hound was their belonging now. Bam. At this moment, a loud explosion sounded from the bottom of the lake, following which a figure shot out and flew into the sky. The sudden appearance of this figure from the bottom of the lake gave everyone in Sacred Soul Sect a scare. Some Sacred Soul Sect disciples immediately dodged to the side. What's that? A human figure? Why would something charge out from the bottom of the lake? Everyone was baffled. The disciples of the Sacred Soul sect and the experts from the dozen-plus forces were shocked to witness the sudden change. They seemed to have seen a human figure shoot out from the surface of the lake to a height of over 100 meters before falling heavily towards the surface of the lake. Everyone looked in shock at that figure. Bam! The figure sank into the lake once again, causing a huge splash. What's the situation? Is that a human? It can fly freely? Everyone looked on in shock. Charge! Capture the Heavenly Hound. At this moment, an old man shouted enthusiastically as his eyes lit up. The crowd of the Sacred Soul sect was shocked. Following which, they realized that the Heavenly Hound, which they had previously surrounded, had charged out of the encirclement while they were distracted. A young man looked at the Heavenly Hound and shouted angrily, "Shit! That Heavenly Hound belongs to our Sacred Soul sect." Once the Heavenly Hound charged out of the Sacred Soul sect's encirclement, it no longer had an owner. The surrounding forces had once again gained the rights to compete for it. The Heavenly Hound belongs to our Sacred Soul sect. The three Inborn experts from the Sacred Soul sect released their aura. Without consideration for the surrounding people, a horrifying aura shrouded towards the surroundings. An old man took out a white bead from his chest gloomily. Under the illumination of the Sacred Soul, everyone will be enlightened. Everyone will have to kneel down, mumbled the old man as the white sacred bead glowed in dazzling light. Carrying the light, he charged ahead of all the forces. With a haughty and cold look, he looked down on everyone as though he was passing judgment. "Everyone, do not take a further step forward." The domineering voice of the old man sounded. The dazzling light shrouded an area of 100 meters. Within this space, what was left was just endless white. Even sunlight couldn't shine through it. What? Sacred Soul bead. Shit, who would have expected the Sacred Soul sect to have brought along the Sacred Soul bead? Damn it. Although the Sacred Soul bead isn't that powerful, it could still temporarily halt 4 to 5 Inborn experts in the hands of an expert of the Sacred Soul sect. The surrounding crowd looked indignant once again. They had not expected the Sacred Soul sect to be hiding their strength all along. Once again they experienced how terrifying Sacred Soul sect was. Unfathomable. Their trump card was something they could never match. Imbecile. If you still dare to run, I'll slaughter you. An Inborn expert from Sacred Soul sect looked furiously at the Heavenly Hound who was shrouded in strong aura. Run? You've got to ask if we, the Sacred Soul sect, agree to it. The disciples of Sacred Soul sect surrounded the Heavenly Hound once again and locked their eyes on it. Grr woof woof. The Heavenly Hound growled and stared furiously at the surrounding crowd. Ah! If we let you escape this time, our Sacred Soul sect would let down the name of a sacred sect. You are just an imbecile. Don't even think about becoming a demon. The disciples of the Sacred Soul sect stared harshly at the Heavenly Hound. Huff. Forget it. I give up. We can't possibly win against the Sacred Soul sect. This Heavenly Hound is now the belonging of the Sacred Soul sect. We have no more hope. It would be hard for the Heavenly Hound to escape this time. The surrounding crowd sighed one after another. Boom boom boom. Just as the crowd was whispering, more figures flew from the bottom of the lake and into the skies once again. This time it wasn't just a single person. Everyone was shocked once again, and this included the disciples of the Sacred Soul sect. The crowd's attention fell on the human figures that were dashing out from the water surface. However, the location they came out from happened to be where the Heavenly Hound was. The disciples of the Sacred Soul sect immediately moved aside. As for the Heavenly Hound, it found another opportunity to escape. Fuck. Who the hell are they? Are they seeking death? An Inborn expert from the Sacred Soul sect shouted furiously when he saw the Heavenly Hound escaping once again. Chapter 291 Terror Strikes Amongst the Heroes. Chapter 291 Terror Strikes Amongst the Heroes. The Sacred Soul sect had gone through pains before they managed to entrap the Heavenly Hound. It would not be long before they finally captured it. Alas, a black shadow emerged from the bottom of the lake and soared into the sky, before plunging back into the waters. This allowed the Heavenly Hound to escape. When they exhausted all means to entrap the Hound a second time, another black shadow came zipping past yet again. This time it was not just one, but up to 10 shadows coming up simultaneously. This gave the Heavenly Hound another chance to escape. Members from the Sacred Soul sect were fuming in anger over the constant harassment. It was akin to offending the sect by tugging at the dragon's beard, to which the offender was courting death. An inborn expert of the sect glared coldly at the 10 who landed on the waters. As he did so, he scowled. How dare you antagonize the Sacred Soul sect time and again? You're courting death. The 10, each wearing a black mask from the abyss, looked grubby and possessed an air of bloodthirst. 10 masked fellows who cannot even show their faces. You've pushed the limits to our tolerance. Should you not come up with a perfect explanation, you'll sink in the lake forever. An elder warned. Holding the sacred soul bead in hand, the elder stared at the 10 masked men with a somber face. Upon hearing the commotion, Wang Xian, Mo Qinglong, Mo Yuan and the 7 Dragonians frowned. Ha! They quipped before looking in the direction of the Sacred Soul sect. A bunch of lawbreakers. Now take your masks off. A disciple of the sect snarled. With a face of fury, he attacked Wang Xian and the gang who were standing near him. Fancy launching an attack without knowing the details. How overbearing. This group is about to meet their doom for disrupting the plans of the Sacred Soul sect, said the sect members. The Sacred Soul sect has blown their top. Let's retreat. The forces standing around panicked. Bang bang bang. It was at this moment that something more shocking happened right before everyone's eyes. Figures shrouded in austerity had flung themselves out of the water from the bottom of the lake. In no time, more than 20 had emerged. One could sense the desolation that the group evoked as they remained in utter silence. The old lady standing in the middle was even shivering. Upon emerging, another old woman let out a blood-curdling shriek, which chilled everyone to the bones. It's heaven's will that we dark conjurers are wiped out. But you, Abyss, even if I should turn into a vengeful ghost, I'll never let you off, she screeched. Prior to this, the glass shield which defended the Dark Conjurer's base from the top had cracked, from which waters were gushing in at alarming speeds. Meanwhile, Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan had led the 7 Dragonians into a massive wipeout of the Dark Conjurers underwater. Within minutes, only a little over 20 Dark Conjurers were left. Disheartened, they were left in panic and fear. This was so, even as the most formidable amongst Wang Xian's group of 10, also the one to have killed their master conjurer in a single palm strike, had yet to make a move on them. As the entire Dark Conjurer's base collapsed, the masked men from the abyss made a dash for the lake surface. Left with no solution, rushing out was all they could manage. Whoever provokes us from the abyss will be annihilated, even if you're the Dark Conjurers. For which you shall be banished into the abyss. Mo Yuan turned to the remaining Dark Conjurers and said, all apathetic. Among the 20 left were 4 Inborns, while the remaining were all half-step Inborns. To think that we Dark Conjurers have actually fallen by the hands of the rookie Abyss, after dominating for half a century. How unexpected. Truly unexpected. The group ridiculed. Since the assassination of their master conjurer, they had lost all will to retaliate. I'll send you all to the abyss, the Dragonians warned. In one shift, the 7 charged forth at striking speed. Along with Mo Qinglong and Mo Yuan, they made their way towards the remaining Dark Conjurers. The surviving Dark Conjurers showed no signs of struggle. They had given up on fighting back. Knowing that the formidable masked man was amongst their opponents, any form of struggle would only prove futile. Raising their heads, their faces were overcome by insanity and grimacing. Turning towards the sky, they let out a spooky laugh. Even if I should transform into a vengeful spirit, I'll never let you people off, they vowed. While they laughed, they exuded an eerie albeit overpowering aura. Even in death, they would meet their maker smiling with pride. The atmosphere began to fill with gore, tyranny, brutality, and bloodthirst, which took the people around by surprise. At that very moment, they could not help but feel shivers down their spines. Bam bam bam. Soon enough, the remaining Dark Conjurers turned into corpses. As they dropped into the lake, their bodies gradually sunk to the bottom. What's the catch now? The crowd asked in shock as they looked on. This was abruptly followed by a group of experts emerging from the waters. It was the 10 masked men from the abyss. To think that those horrifying and tyrannical experts had been slaughtered by these masked men easily. And the onlookers could still remember the sense of despair in the eyes of those slaughtered. It was not a case of unwillingness, but rather the sense that it was no longer necessary for them to retaliate. They had felt unfit to put up a fight. All of this despite the fact that they had a group of 20, which included several Inborn experts amongst other half-step Inborns. Just what sort of experts are those masked men, to be able to force the surviving Dark Conjurers into giving up? At the thought, the Inborn experts and disciples of the Sacred Soul sect could not help but gulp. As for those 20, the stance they displayed right before they perished was simply horrifying. It was more than what would be needed to wipe out all members of Sacred Soul sect present. Everyone began to look over in the direction of the 10 masked men. Just earlier, the old woman seemed to have said that they're the Dark Conjurers, some stuttered. That's right, those killed were the Dark Conjurers. Goodness, so the Dark Conjurers have been annihilated. Wiped out. Others chimed in. The Dark Conjurers have been destroyed. How could this be? They're the most formidable assassin group in the underworld. Even the sacred sects have found them hard to remove. A middle-aged elder squeaked. Meanwhile, the faces on everyone scrunched in utter disbelief along with shock. The Dark Conjurers have been annihilated. Once again, everyone focused on the 10 masked men. I'll send you to the Abyss. Aren't they the Abyss who have just risen in fame within the underworld? One questioned. The Abyss. The ones with the signature masks, and who will roar confidently before they kill. I'll send you to the Abyss. It's them. It's got to be them. Another replied. To think that it's the Abyss who've wiped out the Dark Conjurers. Goodness. Oh goodness. More chipped in. Frightening. How frightening. The rest commented. The rise of yet another threatening force in the underworld, the rest concluded. The multiple forces chirped as they looked at the 10 masked men. Overwhelmed by shock, their eyes gushed in fear. The annihilation of the Dark Conjurers was a feat even the sacred sect could not achieve. That is not filth on them. That's fresh blood. One of the Inborn experts mumbled as he stared at the masked men. Even as an Inborn expert himself, seeing the blood and gore on the 10 gave him chills. Did you say you're going to let us remain under this lake forever? Mo Qinglong asked. To which, he turned his head back briefly to look at the crowd from Sacred Soul sect. Blop blop blop. While he spoke, the base of the Dark Conjurers collapsed in complete destruction. The surface of the lake started to cave in, and as it did, the water started bubbling. Suddenly, dead bodies flushed out of the lake waters from the bottom. One by one, slow but steady. Just gazing over, one could spot corpses numbering in the thousands. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.